Hello, this is Dr. Goldner, and I want to welcome you to Class 1 of Reversing Chronic Autoimmune Disease with Supermarket Foods. In the class today, you're going to hear my personal story of how I fully reversed lupus in my own body after being sick with it for 12 years, and the 3 foods that make you sick. Make sure you pay attention, you take notes, and at the end of the class, make sure you click the link to sign up for the live Q&A that I'm going to be holding. It won't be after this class, but it will be coming up soon, so make sure you click to register for that Q&A so I can answer all of your questions and make sure you get the information you need to get the health you want. Enjoy. Now, before we get started, I just want to acknowledge you for being here right now because, you could be hanging out on your couch with a glass of wine and Netflix, but instead you're here with me. And that's because you want a better life for yourself. You want better health, or you're trying to help other people around you get healthy. And that is so amazing. So I want you to give yourself a pat on the back and congratulate yourself for being here. Because what you learn right here might not just save your life, it could save the life of someone you know and love. Now, before we get started, I want to share a little bit about myself because some of you already know me. You saw me on a documentary, or you saw me on TV like the Home and Family Show, or you heard me on the radio. But maybe you don't know me. Maybe right before this class started, one of your friends tagged you on Facebook and said, you got to go, and you have no idea who I am. So for those of you who don't know my story, I want to share a little bit so you can understand where I'm coming from. I'm a board-certified medical doctor, and I'm also certified in plant-based nutrition. And I've taught in conferences all over, whether it's a medical conference, at a college, and at general conferences for health and nutrition and healing as well. And I'm a best-selling author. I have 2 best-selling books, and I'm kind of a doctor of the future. My entire practice is online because I see nutrition clients and patients from all over the world. And so anyone who needs my help can actually reach me by seeing me right over their computer using Skype or even FaceTime or phone. That way there's nobody out there that isn't able to get the information they need. See, I used to be the medical director at a nonprofit, but I felt like I needed to reach more people because there's so many people out there suffering and dying from disease, and using technology, I'm able to do that now. But before I ever became a doctor or an author, I was a patient. When I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with something called lupus, which is an autoimmune disease where your immune system starts actually attacking your own internal organs. And some of you right now might actually be suffering from that disease. Back when I was diagnosed at 16, I was told that I had 6 months before my kidneys were going to fail completely from nephritis. They said, worst case scenario, 6 months dialysis or you won't make it, using the regular treatments they had to offer back then. But they said if I did an experimental treatment using Cytoxan chemotherapy, they might be able to save my kidneys. And they use Cytoxan chemotherapy today for lupus. Selena Gomez had chemotherapy, although it didn't save her kidney. She just had a transplant. But they used it for me as well. Now, nowadays they use Cytoxan for maybe a couple weeks or maybe a month. But back when they were experimenting on me, they weren't sure how long they should go. And so I actually had chemotherapy every month for 2 years straight. So from 16 to 18 years old, I was getting IV chemotherapy while trying to finish high school. And it was excruciating. I mean, I didn't really have a social life of any kind. When I wasn't in pain from lupus, I was throwing up from chemotherapy. And, my mom was so amazing because she just kept me focused on what I was going to do with my life and not what I was suffering from. And for those of you who are suffering right now, I really, really suggest that you do that you don't make lupus or your disease or whatever stress you have your identity or your focus. You got to focus on what's in your heart and what you want to do with your life. And so for me, I really wanted to make my life meaningful by helping others. And so I wanted to go to medical school. And that's what I focused on, was how do I get the best grades in high school and work my exams around my studying for my exams around my chemo schedule, rather than the idea that I might not live past my teens. And as amazing as my mom was at keeping me focused and telling me, could be worse, everything's going to be okay, at night I could still hear her crying in her room. And I'll never forget what it was like seeing my grandmother on her knees begging God to take her and spare my life. And so I was acutely aware all the time of how much the people who loved me were suffering, and I often felt like they suffered more than I did. Now, I'm going to give away the ending here so that I don't bring the mood down too much. I'm going to let you know that I made it and I'm still here. But it was a really stressful time for my entire family. Thankfully, the chemotherapy, all 2 years of it, plus high-dose steroids and a bunch of other medicines that I had to guzzle down every day, actually was able to put me in remission at the time. Now, remission is not a cure. I wasn't healed. I still had lupus. Any blood test would show you that I had lupus. I had a positive ANA, I had positive anti-dsDNA antibodies, and I also was symptomatic. I would get arthritis sometimes, and I would take medicine for the arthritis. I would get migraine still. I would get the malar rash across my cheeks if I was in the sun too long. But I wasn't dying at the moment. And that's really what remission means, is that you're stable. You're still sick, but you're stable. And I was able to maintain that level of sick and stable remission through college because I could still control things like my level of stress and when I studied and made sure I get enough sleep. But then I kind of went against doctor's orders. They told me, always make sure you get plenty of sleep and low stress. And so what do? I go to medical school. But I never wanted to let lupus stop me from doing what I wanted to do with my life, to stop me from living my dream. And my dream was to be able to use my experiences as a patient to help other people not suffer. That was really my goal. And so I got into medical school and I did okay the first 2 years, but once I got into the clinic schedule, I got sick again. And this time I started getting double vision, where the entire world was split apart into two pieces. And I would have to hold on to the wall to wait for it to come back together again. And I remember telling one of my attendings who kind of thought I was a hypochondriac med student, and so I kept going. And then one day I collapsed in one of the clinics, and I remember right before that I was just so confused. I didn't know if I was awake or dreaming, and I couldn't talk. I remember looking at the resident, and I couldn't verbalize what I wanted to say. And next thing I knew, I was waking up in the clinic. And I actually drove home. I remember I woke up and I didn't know what was going on, but all I could think about was I want to go home, I want to go home. And I took my keys, and then I couldn't remember how to get home. But I only lived a couple blocks from the clinic at the time. And so somehow, even though I was going slowly and staring in confusion at the street signs, somehow I made it back home. I think it was one of those things where, have you ever just driven home, but your mind was somewhere else and your body took you home? I think it was kind of like that. And I parked up on the curb and I crashed in my house. And when I woke up hours later, I felt okay, but I wasn't. And when I went back to my doctors, I found out that the lupus had become active again. And I developed something called anti-cardiolipin antibody, which is like an antiphospholipid antibody, which you might have as well, that causes blood clots. And I was sending those blood clots into my brain. And what I'd experienced something called a mini stroke or a transient ischemic attack, where the blood clot had gone into my brain and caused stroke symptoms, but then dissolved again before it caused damage. At least they told me that there was no damage. And I have a little stroke humor. I always try to say that I think I was smarter then, but funnier now. Only people who are sick seem to think it's funny. But you have to be able to face what you're going through with some humor, and I've always tried to do that no matter how dire things are. But at the time, I wasn't laughing. At the time, I cried for about 2 weeks because I felt like I was so close to my goal. I'd been managing my disease for years through college, and I'd kind of hoped that it would just stay the way it was. And here I was, a year and a half away from graduating medical school, and I felt like the world was crashing around me, that I now had to take injections in my stomach every day, and they told me for the rest of my life that I could never get off blood thinners or that I would have a major stroke. But I couldn't hit my head because then the blood thinners would cause a bleeding stroke, and it was really terrifying. They told me there was no way I could ever have children between my history of kidney failure and the strokes, that it would be a death wish if I ever tried to have children. And as a medical student, I also knew for the first time in my life how devastating my disease was. There was no Google when I was 16, so I really didn't understand everything that was going on in my body. But by the time I was a medical student, I knew that I wasn't going to live a long life, and it was going to get worse from there. Now, after about 2 weeks of really mourning my health, I finally got back to the place where I always live, which is a place of gratitude, because I was still alive. Yes, I had to take blood thinners every day. Yes, I had this serious illness, but I also was living my dream of becoming a doctor. And how many people out there never go after their dream? And so I started to actually feel lucky again. I went, you know what? At least there's a medicine that can help me. I'm still alive. I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to live my dream, and I'm going to make every moment of my life count. And so I went back to a place of feeling grateful for my life and feeling intensely happy and excited about what was to come. And right when I was in this moment of thinking I couldn't get any happier, I had gotten my first choice of residency at UCLA Harbor in California, and everything seemed to be going right. That's when something happened that changed the course of my life and my health forever. That's when I met my future husband, Thomas Tadlock. Now you can see him here. This is my husband, Thomas, back when we were 28. So those of you who know him now, he no longer has that hair, and I lost most of it as well. But meeting him changed everything. We fell in love so fast. I mean, it was just magical. In fact, I always thought as a scientist, I didn't really believe in love that was magical. I didn't believe in soulmates until I met him. And within a month of meeting each other, we knew we wanted to get married. And so he was excitedly talking to me about how he wanted to marry me. And I had to break it to him about the lupus. See, we'd only been together a month, and I hadn't really talked about the lupus because I was thinking in my head, well, I'm going to be leaving for California, or this isn't going to be long term, and it's kind of depressing to start off dating by talking about a horrible disease, right? So I hadn't really talked about that part of my life. And now that we were talking about marriage, I had to tell him everything. And so I told him that I have this horrible disease and that it's going to get worse. And I can never have your children. And before I die too young, you're going to end up taking care of me. And I totally understand if this is not what you signed up for or want to sign up for at 28 years old. And, he says that it took him time to get through that shock. For me, it took maybe a second or two before he looked me in the eye and answered me back, I'd rather live a short life with you than a lifetime with anybody else. And I said, crap, let's get married. Oh my gosh. So I was so excited that, I had everything now. I had someone who loved me that wanted to marry me. I had my first choice of residency. I was going to live more dreams than I ever imagined. But you see, I had always dreamt of my white coat. I'd never dreamt of a white dress. And so for the first time ever, I started thinking about, well, what am I going to wear for my wedding and how am I going to look at my wedding? And we wanted to get married in Maui, which meant bikinis, at least for me. And I wanted to look really incredible. And, the white coat will cover a lot. And I was getting away with being about a size 11, which, was where I started was in Pittsburgh, was actually thin for Pittsburgh, unfortunately. But in LA, where I was heading, that wasn't going to work. And on top of that, I just wanted to look beautiful in my wedding. But I also wanted to be healthy. I didn't want to starve myself like a lot of my friends did before their weddings because my health was so fragile. Now, my husband, or my fiance at the time, is actually a celebrity trainer. And he was working with people who were going on MTV who needed a six-pack in 3 weeks to look good in their music video. And so what he did to help those people is he used nutrition to increase their metabolism so that when they added their exercise to it, the fat just fell off their body. Well, I wanted to do it in a healthy way like that. So I asked him if he would train me for our wedding. And so what he did was he modified his nutrition plan that he was using for his celebrity clients so that it would work for me because I had some stipulations. What he was doing back then was kind of a super healthy version of the paleo diet, but this was many years ago. And what it was a lot of vegetables, a lot of omega-3s, and for protein he was using free-range animals, okay, so meat from free-range animals. And that was working to get people the fitness results, although it wasn't reversing any diseases. Now for me, I'd been a vegetarian since I was 12. I refused to eat animals, but really I was more of a cheesetarian. I ate cheese and eggs every single day. And so what he told me was, okay, we're not going to put meat in your program, but you got to get rid of all that saturated fat or you're never going to lose weight. And all of that dairy is the most fattening stuff on the planet. So I had to get rid of that. And so what we did was we used things like tofu for my protein instead, and then stuck with tons of vegetables and omega-3 fatty acids. Now, what happened to me? Well, one, I lost weight really fast. So within 3.5 months, I went from a size 11 to a size 3. The other thing that happened, though, really rapidly within days, was that I felt amazing. My arthritis was gone. I could work late shifts. I was working 30-hour shifts as an intern in my residency, and I would have energy to go to the gym afterwards. That's weird for someone who doesn't have lupus, but for someone who has it, it's unheard of. And I was also drinking a lot of water as well, instead of drinking all the caffeine that I was used to drinking. And yet I had more energy than I'd ever had before. And my migraines were gone. It was just, I couldn't remember ever feeling that good. And so right before we went to go to our wedding, I went to my new doctor in California. And now he had all my charts from Pennsylvania where I grew up. And so he knew how serious my disease was. And he said, there's something wrong here. I think there was a lab error. And I said, what do you mean a lab error? He goes, well, these tests are negative for lupus. What? Well, that's not possible. I just graduated medical school, so I knew that was not possible, right? And so he said, yeah, these are negative for lupus. There is mildly high antiphospholipid antibody, but not something you would normally treat. But something's not right here. Let's go enjoy your wedding, and when you come back, we'll retest it. Well, let me show you what happened physically. So before we left for our wedding, here I am in California, and that's not my husband, that was a friend of mine, and not fat, but not really that healthy either. This is what I looked like right before I went on the program. And then here I am less than 4 months later in Maui, and so there's my husband and I at Twin Falls right before we got married. I think it was the day before we got married. I'd gone from a size 11 to a size 3 and really super fit in about 3.5 months. And he looked pretty good too, I think. And we had a beautiful, beautiful wedding. It was just so romantic to just be together and with only the people we were closest to and just rejoicing in our love and knowing that we had to really treasure every moment together because we didn't know how many moments we would have. And so we had a beautiful, beautiful wedding. And then when we got back, I went to the doctor and I took my blood tests again. And this time he was really confused. He brought in the medical student with him and he said, this woman alleges to have lupus, but I can't find it. And I went, excuse me, alleges? And he showed me my blood tests, and not only were they negative for lupus again, but the anticardiolipin was negative too. And my cholesterol, which I was told was genetically high, came down to normal as well. It was like somebody had hijacked my labs and was transforming me into this healthy person. But all I'd ever done was change my diet. And I just graduated medical school. So if diet was important for health, they would have taught us that, right? I never heard anything about it. So we didn't assume I was healed. We just assumed that I was in an amazing remission. Now, remission, again, means that you're stable, but you still have a disease. According to my blood work, I didn't have anything wrong with me. Well, a year later, I was still testing negative and finally convinced my doctor to take me off my meds. I asked him, why am I still injecting myself in the stomach every day? And he said, you're treating my anxiety because you don't have someone who's sending blood clots in their head with lupus and take them off their medicine. But I was ready to come off them because I had no symptoms and my blood tests were normal. And then 4 years after that, I really just believed that this body was not sick anymore. I'd never had any relapse in symptoms. I felt better and better as the years went on, and I finally decided to do something that everybody told me would kill me and would be the end of me, but I just didn't believe it anymore. I decided that I was ready to have a baby. Now, everybody was terrified when I decided to get pregnant, but my mom, she wanted to carry the baby for me. My husband was so scared that this would rob him of our time together. But I could feel it in my cells that I was okay. And not only did I have a healthy pregnancy, they sent me to the high-risk OB, whereas what you do with people who have lupus, you send them to high risk because there's just so much risk that something terrible is going to happen. The high-risk OB sent me back to the regular OB and said, there's nothing wrong with this lady. And so my regular OB saw me almost every week freaking out, but nothing ever happened. I was super healthy. And I did have to have a C-section because my son was breech. He was butt first, so there was no way that he was going to be able to come out the normal way. So I had the C-section, and my beautiful baby boy Solomon was born. And here's my Solomon, and he was just gorgeous, and he was so healthy. And not only that, but only a matter of hours after my C-section, I was up walking around again, feeling totally fine. I went home after only a couple days and was just so excited to embark on my new exciting motherhood adventure. And I was producing a ton of milk. I was actually able to donate my milk and feed my baby because I had such a healthy milk supply. And that's when something really amazing happened, was my birthday. So 9 days after I gave birth, it was my birthday, and I turned 33 at the time. And my mom was with us, and she said, you know what? Baby's sleeping. Go out to dinner with your husband, and as soon as he wakes up, I'll call you and you can come right back and nurse him. And I said, okay, that sounds really wonderful. Now, I had not put clothes on, like regular clothes on, for a week because, you know, any of you guys who have had babies or who have wives or girlfriends who had babies, you know, once the baby's born, it's like pajamas and nursing because I was just nursing, eating, and sleeping, right? So I hadn't really put regular clothes on for a week and I had no idea what I was going to wear. So I just went into my closet and pulled out a pair of jeans that I wore before I got pregnant. And lo and behold, they fit. So here I am 9 days after giving birth and my size 3 jeans just went right on. And there was no problem at all. And that's when my husband and I went, wait a minute, something is going on here. You know, there is something strange happening because, you know, my husband at the time, we had moved to California together and he now had the largest boot camps in Orange County. He was training, you know, hundreds and hundreds of women, many of whom said they hadn't lost their baby weight yet, and they had a baby that was 20 years old already. And so, you know, he'd never seen somebody who could have a baby and then immediately, a week, 9 days later, looked like they never had a baby. So he knew something was really bizarre. And we went, you know what? There's a lot of strange things here. Number one, my body just transformed back to looking like I never had a baby, except for the I was nursing, you know, but my waist came right back down. I still had no lupus symptoms. I still had negative labs for lupus. Everything that we expected to happen wasn't happening. And what we realized was my body was responding in real time to whatever we asked it to do. When I needed to get pregnant, I was pregnant and I carried the baby with a healthy pregnancy. When it was time to heal from the birth, I healed immediately and I was able to produce milk for my baby. And my body looked like I wasn't ever pregnant. And that is not something you normally see. And so we knew that I now had a body where my cells were so healthy, they could respond in real time to whatever we asked it to do. And we said, what in the world did we do that could have changed my health so dramatically that all of this could happen? And the only thing we did was change my diet. And so my husband and I are both scientists. I did genetic research in disease like leukemia and eye development. My husband has a master's degree in health promotion. And so we went back and really studied the biochemistry of my diet. And we looked at what did I start eating that could possibly promote cellular regeneration and cell health and immune health? And what did I stop eating that could have been making me sick? And we realized that we had accidentally created the most anti-inflammatory diet humanly possible. And so we started testing it and refining it and figuring out what's the most rapid amount of time we could change somebody's health. He was applying it to people in fitness. I was applying it to people in autoimmune disease, and we were getting the same results. And that's where the plans I use today come from. Now, I didn't stop there. 4 years later, I convinced my husband to try one more time. And this is 2 days before I gave birth to my son, Alex. I was ready to pop right there. And these are my 2 sons. It's Alexander and that's Solomon. And I remember asking my OBGYN, I said, why is it that I could have a C-section and I feel better immediately when other people are laid up for weeks or months? And she said, listen, you know, I'm a great surgeon, but you have an extraordinary ability to heal. And to this day, when I say that sentence, I get goosebumps up my arms because when I had lupus, I couldn't even heal a pimple. I had a pimple that turned into this big on my hip that I had to get lysed open because my immune system couldn't even heal a little bit of bacteria. And now I can have my belly cut open and a baby taken out, and I feel better within hours because my cells are so healthy. And so I get to enjoy my family, and I don't need to be afraid of whatever's going to happen to my health, that there's something terrible on the way. Now, the extraordinary success that I've had, not only in my own life, but in helping people all over the world reverse their own diseases like lupus or Sjogren's or scleroderma or MS or rheumatoid arthritis, helping all those people get their lives back has gotten me attention from all over the world. And so I've been really blessed and honored to have 2 best-selling books at this point. So Goodbye Lupus went bestseller before it was even published in the pre-order stage. My second book, Green Smoothie Recipes to Kickstart Your Health and Healing, also a bestseller. I've also been on the cover of multiple magazines. There I am with my family. And again, and also been in movies like Eating You Alive, and on TV shows like the Home and Family Show, and maybe you've seen some of those, and I've been on other magazines since then, and it's been extraordinary for me. But really what it's about is, it's not about the publicity in terms of getting attention from me. What it means to me is more and more people are hearing the message that healing is possible and that you don't need to suffer or die from a disease like lupus. And so that's why I work so hard. That's why I retired from my job as a medical director, to dedicate myself to teaching this information. It's why I'm taking the time out of my day right now to be here with you, to teach you, because nothing matters more to me than you not suffering, than you leading the life you're meant to live. And I never want money to be a reason people don't know this information. And that's why I teach this for free. So I hope that you've got your notepad handy. I hope that you're ready to learn a ton of information. I'm going to teach you so much, and I hope it makes a big difference in your life and in your health. Let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by learning the 6 steps to healing with supermarket foods. Today we're going to start with steps 1, 2, and 3, which are about how to prevent inflammation by avoiding foods that cause it. So when we're looking at inflammatory foods, so it says eliminate inflammatory foods. Now when I talk about inflammation, I want you to understand that I'm not talking about general inflammation. Inflammation is really how your body reacts to any kind of threat. So when you have a virus or a bacteria, or if you bang your knee on the corner of your bed like I do on a regular basis because I'm clumsy, you get an inflammatory response, and that's your body trying to go after the culprit to get you better. Now, when you have inflammation every single day, okay, because you're eating foods that cause inflammation, then you develop something called chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation would be like if you banged your knee in the corner of your bed every single day over and over again. Eventually, you'd actually start to damage the tissues in your leg with that inflammation, even though your body was trying to use it to heal it. Well, that happens in your body as well. If breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks all have inflammatory foods, then you are getting your immune system to activate itself every single meal so that it's active all day long. Well, then that's when you start triggering your genes for disease. Your genes for disease need to be triggered. It's why you're not born with heart disease. It's why you're not born with lupus, right? Your body needs to accumulate inflammation until the point that it triggers those genes you have. Now you've got disease. So that is also why we can reverse disease by eliminating those foods and eliminating thereby that inflammation, and then change it with anti-inflammatory foods. So I want you to understand from now on, when I talk about inflammation, I'm actually going to be referring to chronic inflammation, which is what causes disease. Okay, so from now on, we're going to be talking about inflammation as the negative result of chronic inflammation. So we're going to eliminate the foods that cause chronic inflammation, and we're going to go into those in detail. Now, the next time we meet, I'm going to do a class that teaches steps 4, 5, and 6, which are how to add healing foods in. So today, we're going to focus on steps 1, 2, and 3. Let's get started. So the first food group, or the food category that causes inflammation, is going to be animal products. So you can see here, that includes dairy products, that includes eggs, that includes chicken, beef, fish. All of these animal products, products that come from animals, cause inflammation. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit how that works. Let's start with the first one that usually upsets people the most. Let's start with dairy products. Now, when I'm talking about dairy products, I'm talking about cheese, yogurt, ice cream, milk, cottage cheese. All of that stuff is unhealthy, okay? So a lot of times people will say, oh, I eat a pretty healthy diet, and they're eating cottage cheese, and they're eating yogurt, and they're eating goat cheese. Those are not health foods. Those are causing disease, okay? Now, one of the most obvious ways people know that they don't get along with dairy is if they're lactose intolerant. But you have to understand, lactose is just one part of dairy products. That is a sugar that's in it. And I actually tell people, if you're lactose intolerant, you're lucky, because the diarrhea is a really good signal that milk is not good for you. That doesn't mean you should take a pill so that you stop having the diarrhea. It means listen to your body, don't eat it. Now, unfortunately, not all of us have that reaction to the lactose, but that doesn't mean that it's good for us. There's actually proteins in milk as well that cause inflammation and illness, okay? So the first one that you look at is casein. Casein is a protein that's been shown over and over again in research to make people sick, and it causes so many different diseases. It doesn't just cause inflammation. Dr. T. Holland Campbell proved that casein, milk protein, can turn cancer genes on. And then when you eliminate it, the cancer genes go off again. It literally turns cancer genes on the promoter level of the gene. Not only that, dairy products are also known to triple your risk of ovarian cancer, all right? They also increase your risk of breast cancer and prostate cancer. Well, why would that be? Those are hormonal cancers, right? Well, number one, it's turning the genes on for cancer. Number two, there's an extraordinary amount of estrogen in dairy, because realize that dairy is taken from mother cows that have either just given birth or are pregnant, because cows are mammals just like us. They only produce milk for their babies. And so they have to keep these cows in a constant cycle of pregnancy and birth to keep them producing the maximal amount of milk, because they want high amounts of milk. You know that if you have a 1-year-old kid, you don't produce anywhere near as much milk as you did when they were born. So they keep them pregnant all the time, pregnant and delivering, which means you're getting a gigantic dose of estrogen. If you're wondering why it is that kids nowadays are developing so early, especially girls, it's because of the huge exposure to the estrogen, the dairy products. The study that looked at tripling the risk of ovarian cancer, that was done at Harvard. So realize these are not little eensy-beensy insignificant studies. And the dairy industry has been trying for a long time to get some kind of study to prove it's healthy, but they haven't been able to do so, which is my theory behind why their slogan has changed from, milk does a body good when I was a kid, to got milk or milk life, because they really aren't able to support the claim that it's good for your body in any way. Now, it also has been suggested to increase the risk of type 1 diabetes. There was a study done that indicated that the milk protein actually can confuse the body, where a baby, realize that when you're nursing your baby, there's holes in their digestive tract to allow the proteins of our mother's antibodies into the baby's body so that they can get the benefit of our immune system. But that means other proteins can get through as well. And there's actually a mimicry reaction where something in the milk triggers the body to make an antibody that also looks a lot like the protein in the pancreas. And that could be the initial trigger that starts the autoimmune disease of type 1 diabetes. So literally giving your child cow milk when your doctor says to do it when they're 1 year old, or giving them formula products made with cow milk, might actually be setting them up for a lifetime of disease. My suggestion is, if you can't breastfeed your baby, to use breast milk donation. I donated my breast milk with a company called Human Milk for Human Babies. It's entirely free. You can find it on Facebook, where moms who produce enough to feed a village give it to other moms happily and willingly who can't produce it themselves. So I highly and strongly suggest that you use that, and never think of breastfeeding as just an option. It's essential for your baby's health. Now, they've also shown that people with autism respond to removing dairy from their diet. They actually are able to communicate better and feel better and think better without it. They've also shown that it increases the acidity of our bodies. So a lot of times people wonder, well, how do you get your calcium without milk? Well, yes, milk has calcium in it, but it's not in an easily absorbable form in our body. So what happens is the milk itself is so acidic, it triggers our bones to release calcium phosphate to neutralize all of that acidity. Calcium phosphate, which means every time you consume dairy products, you release calcium from your bones, making your bones weaker, which is why in our country, where we have a super high rate of osteoporosis, and we tell women to, eat your yogurt, drink your milk, their osteoporosis never gets better, does it? But in other countries where they have super high rates of milk consumption, like us, for example, New Zealand, they have the same super high rates of osteoporosis. Yet in other areas of the world where they don't consume dairy at all, like in rural China, they don't have any osteoporosis at all. That's because the dairy itself is causing the bone loss. And it's something really, really important to know. A much better source of calcium is green leafy vegetables like kale, broccoli, awesome sources of calcium. Another thing to realize about dairy products is it seems to be a huge trigger for allergy. And you can see it change over the course of a person's life. So for example, you might have a baby with eczema. And that could turn into a young child, or a toddler, or maybe an elementary school kid that has asthma. and irritation of their lungs, which can turn into a teenager that has acne problems, which can turn into an adult that has allergy issues with foods themselves. And I've seen that progression in a lot of people. And I've seen a lot of people who are adults that develop all sorts of weird allergies to foods that they never had growing up. I'll introduce you to one person like that. This is Freddie. Freddie is someone that we actually go to the gym with. And Freddie was doing some reps near me, and he didn't realize who he was talking to when he started complaining that his doctor wanted to put him on medicine for high blood pressure, and he didn't want to take any medicine. He's a professional bodybuilder, retired police officer, and he thought that he was going to be the one in his family that didn't need to have anti-blood pressure medication because he was so strong and fit. But his blood pressure was really, really high. So I started asking him about his diet and what is he doing, and it turns out that he eats a ton of meat, bodybuilder, and he starts his day every day with a huge glass of milk. So I started talking to him about, adding more fresh vegetables to his diet. And he said, I can't eat vegetables anymore. I can't eat fruit anymore. I wish I could. He said, over the years, I've developed more and more allergies to fruits and vegetables, and I miss them dearly, but it's gotten so bad that if I have a bite of watermelon, my wife needs to give me an epi shot because I can't handle it. I go into anaphylaxis from it. So really severe allergies. And so what I did with him is I talked to him about, okay, first of all, you've got to get rid of that milk in the morning. You've got to get rid of all that heavy amount of meat. And let's start adding in the vegetables that your body will let you have without allergy and see what happens. And so he eliminated all the dairy and he cut his meat down to only once a week. And what happened was, next time I saw him was about a month later. I'd been traveling to teach. And he asked me if he could give me a hug. Actually, he asked my husband, can I give your wife a hug? And he said, of course. And so he gave me a hug and he said, I can eat fruit again. He'd been trying one fruit at a time and he could eat them without an allergic reaction. Getting rid of the dairy completely and cutting down on the meat, his immune system was able to calm down. Because you need to understand that allergy is very much like autoimmune disease. It's your immune system going way out of control, doing all the stuff it shouldn't be doing. It needs to calm down, okay? And what I've seen is a lot of people who have allergies develop autoimmune disease because their immune system is just out of control. His immune system calmed down. He was able to go back to eating fruits and vegetables again. And he's been able to maintain his muscle mass, no problems. He said beans have been working just as well as his meat used to. He has no complaints in that area. He also has found that he's got more energy than ever. And he said his wife's complaining because everything seems to be working better, if you know what I mean. And that's something else that you got to look at. Dairy products, saturated fat from dairy and eggs and meat will clog up your arteries, which means that men, the first sign of clogged arteries actually is erectile dysfunction because the arteries are so much smaller in the penis than they are in the heart. And so we don't want to just take a medicine to pretend that's not happening. You want to get rid of all of that backup by eliminating the foods that are causing the disease. So that's Freddie. Now, the other thing to realize is that there's a serious health risk when it comes to the actual production of milk. This is what it looks like when the cows are actually being milked. It is not, a farmer sitting and talking to Bessie, just happily squeezing on her teats and having a conversation. No, this is a production. This is an industry. And so it is really, really filthy, first of all. The teats, you can see these machines that are pulling. What they do is they suck so hard to try to get every last drop out of the udders. And oftentimes there'll be infections in the udders because they are being milked every single day for hours and hours. And so they get swollen, infected teats. Now, normally, if a teat gets infected, the cow's body will naturally block it off so it won't work, so that her baby will only get fresh milk and not infected milk. But these powerful suction devices will burst right past that natural wall of hers and suck the infected teat as well, which means that you are getting a lot of infected material in the actual milk itself. They've actually said, let me see here, that in 1 teaspoon of milk, there is 1,120,000 cells of pus. So if you want to think about that, now the dairy industry says, don't worry about the pus, we pasteurize it, so it's dead pus. But that doesn't really sound that appetizing to me anyway, whether it's dead or not. Now, this is also one of the reasons why cows are given tons and tons of antibiotics. But the problem is that means you're eating antibiotics whenever you drink the milk, right? So if you don't have, they get rid of the infection with the antibiotics, so now you've got antibiotics that's coming through your milk every day. So which one do you want? You want the pus? You want the antibiotics? Neither of them is something you want to drink through a straw. All right. Now, the other thing to realize here is that, this is actually really, really a sad and difficult process for the cow itself. They usually they are milked 10 months out of the year. And normally a cow would live 20 years. Most dairy cows only live about 5 years because of how hard it is on their bodies. And so there's also a lot of stress that's going through their bodies. We're being exposed to their adrenaline and their stress as well that's coming through not just their milk, but their meat itself. Because after 5 years, when they can no longer produce any milk, or at least not enough milk, then they're killed for cheap meat. And so it's really just a horrendous cycle where we're producing a product that is causing illness in people and also really horrible for the animals themselves. Now, I was a cheese addict, as I told you. Every single day I was eating cheese and milk. But I like to say now that I'm way more addicted to how healthy feels than I ever was to cheese, and that is the truth. Cheese is extremely addictive, and it's addictive for a reason. There's actually something called casomorphine in cheese. And in milk itself. Casomorphine is a type of morphine. It's something that actually affects our opioid receptors in our head where we get high on it. That's why a cheese platter makes you so excited. It's not the taste of the cheese so much as the high that you get when you're eating it. And so it actually activates these opioid receptors in your brain. Now, why does it make any sense that dairy products will cause opium release? Well, the reason for that is that it's really, really biologically important for the baby cow or the baby human, because it's in our milk as well, to be addicted to their mother's milk, right? That baby cow needs to want that milk because that's what's going to make it grow. Now, there's a lot more casomorphine in a cow's milk than there is in human milk. We don't make exactly the same product. Now, normally, the cow weans off of that casomorphine because the more grass he eats, less milk he drinks, and so it slowly weans off. Well, humans, we're still nursing on that cow, and we're having enormous amounts of milk and dairy products, and so we're getting hit with that morphine every day, and we're still addicted to it. Now, if you're one of those people that says, I don't really like milk, I prefer cheese, well, it takes 7 to 8 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. So you're getting a huge hit of morphine every time you eat cheese, and that is why you crave it so badly. When you get past the addiction, when you just get rid of it and you go for a couple months without it, you'll find that you don't even want it. I was so addicted to it back in the day, and now when I look at it, I literally see pus, inflammation, cancer. Just, it's gross to me because I'm no longer addicted to it. What I'm addicted to is feeling amazing. So I hope that gives you just a snapshot of why dairy is so bad for you. Now, when we teach our Amazing Health Mastery class, where I've got 12 hours to teach you everything, I could go on for an hour just about dairy alone. But I hope that gives you enough information to start thinking about why you need to eliminate it. Now, the other thing to eliminate is the rest of it. So the eggs and the meat, every kind of meat, including fish, all of that stuff is included in all of that stuff will make your health worse, okay? Now, the Mayo Clinic conducted a review of 6 large-scale studies, and what they found, looking at 1.5 million people across the US, China, the European Union, they found that eating processed meat was associated with higher levels of death from all causes. From all causes. No matter what they died from, they were more likely to die if they were eating meat. Another review looked at 500,000 participants, and people who had low meat intake or no meat intake had 25 to 50% decrease of all-cause mortality. 25 to 50% decrease in dying if they ate little to no meat at all. So literally any kind of meat at all doubles your risk of dying. That is not a little thing. That's a big, big thing. Another thing that has happened in the past few years is the World Health Organization has published data where they've had international scientists look at all of the research from all over the world. And what they've decided is that processed meat like hot dogs and bologna and bacon are considered now Class A carcinogens, which is the same category as cigarettes. They're saying it has the same likelihood of causing cancer as cigarettes do. And yet, who usually eats bacon and hot dogs and bologna? Kids. So people are literally giving their kids carcinogens, okay? Really, really important. Now, the rest of the meat products were called Class B, which says likely carcinogen. And actually, they're being really, really careful about that. It is not just likely, it is extremely likely. And in my opinion, from looking at that research and looking at what's happening in people, it is really true that all meat is going to increase your risk for cancer. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works in a moment. Now, again, meat also increases your acidity. And again, your acidity goes up. You're not only at risk for more disease, you're going to be at risk for more bone loss as well, just like you are in the dairy products. And the other thing that's really interesting, there's a lot of research lately looking at how meat eating is actually the cause for type 2 diabetes. So I talked a little bit about how dairy can cause type 1 diabetes. Well, what they've found in research lately is that what is causing people to lose insulin sensitivity in type 2 diabetes is that fat from meat products is coating the muscle cells and blocking the insulin receptor. And that's why their insulin isn't working anymore. So if you have a meal of, let's say, some eggs and some bacon and some fruit, the eggs and the bacon are going to coat your cells with fat, saturated fat, that now blocks your insulin receptor, so that when you eat the fruit, your blood sugar goes up, and the insulin can tell your cells to suck the sugar in, because the insulin is what binds to the cell to tell it, hey, bring the sugar in, get it out of the bloodstream. It doesn't work, and so therefore your blood sugar goes up. For years, doctors have been blaming the fruit for the high blood sugar, when it's not the fruit's fault. It's not the carbs' fault. It's actually the meat's fault. So I have type 2 diabetics who do my programs, and we eliminate the animal products, and they can drink a green smoothie full of pineapple and bananas, and their blood sugar goes down. It goes down rapidly because they are now absorbing their sugar just fine because they're not blocking their insulin receptors anymore. Really, really fascinating research. Now, the other thing that you got to look at is what happens to your gut. Everybody nowadays is talking about leaky gut syndrome, right? So leaky gut is really a syndrome where there's actually disruption in the gut, where things that are supposed to just travel through are leaking out into your bloodstream because the cell walls are breaking down. And Scientific American did a study where they looked at if you put saturated fat into the gut, what happens? And what they found was it increases immune activity immediately. So immune cells come to the gut, and they've also found that the gut itself becomes inflamed, and in some cases it even hemorrhages blood. So every time you eat a meal with saturated fat, you are literally ripping your gut apart. And so that's going to be from dairy, and that's going to be from eggs, and that's going to be from any kind of meat. So it's really wreaking havoc. Now, my expertise is in the immune system. So what I want to show you is how animal products are actually causing your immune system to malfunction and cause the diseases like autoimmune disease, like lupus and scleroderma and Sjogren's and RA and all those kinds of diseases, as well as cancer and heart disease. Watch this. Now, don't get nervous when I show you this. I'm going to put a big pathway up. Don't memorize it. Don't try to get it all down on your paper. I'm going to actually make it simpler once I show you the big one. I'm going to zoom in and show you exactly how it works. So I'm going to start out by showing you, this is the omega-6 fatty acid pathway. Now, this is the pathway your body uses to make the inflammatory immune cells. Now, remember, some inflammation is normal. Inflammation all day, every day, that is pathological and causes disease. So your omega-6 fatty acid pathway leads you down to your inflammatory immune cells. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in on this section here and show you exactly how that works. Now, we zoomed in and see chicken, eggs, beef, fish, duck, fowl, lamb, any animal products at all, okay, are all a source of arachidonic acid. Now, arachidonic acid gets converted by 3 enzymes, 5-LOX, COX-1, and COX-2, into your inflammatory leukotriene B4, thromboxane A2, prostaglandin E2. You don't have to remember those names. I just want you to see how this works, okay? Now, the more arachidonic acid you have, the more these enzymes are activated. And then the more of these products they produce. Nothing stops that pathway. It keeps going and going. The more AA you have, the more of these enzymes you have, the more of these products you have. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, let's zoom in and look. Looking at 5-LOX itself, what happens when you have too much of that enzyme? Well, if you have too much of that enzyme is responsible for cell growth. So if you have too much of it, it actually causes cancer growth. Cancer invasion, so cancer growing into your cells, and cancer metastasis, cancer actually moving throughout your body. Now, it also causes more leukotriene B4. What happens when you have too much leukotriene B4? Well, a lot. One, you get chronic inflammation, destruction of healthy tissue. Now it's invading into your healthy tissue, which is going to cause arthritis. It's going to cause swelling called edema. It's It's going to cause asthma, difficulty breathing, atherosclerosis, and heart attacks. It's going to cause pain. It's going to cause inflammatory bowel disease. It's going to cause more than that, but I ran out of room. If you have any of these symptoms here or any of these, then you need to think about how eating animal products is actually causing and exacerbating and perpetuating your disease. That's just looking at one piece of the pathway. Let's look at what happens when you've got too much COX-2. Well, COX-2 helps regulate formation of blood vessels to healthy tissue. If you've got too much COX-2, you're going to have increased cancer growth from increased cancer blood supply. Now you're making more blood vessels to help your cancer grow more and more and more. You're also going to make more prostaglandin E2. What happens when you have too much prostaglandin E2? You get more cancer, you get more chronic inflammation, again, more pain, more irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease. So if you've got a problem with cancer, with your bowels, with pain, with arthritis, with asthma, with heart disease, then you need to think about getting rid of the animal products. Now there's one other one here. What happens when you have too much COX-1? Well, you get more thromboxane A2. So what happens? Well, thromboxane A2 is responsible for creating blood clots. So when you've got too much of it, you're going to have more heart attacks and more strokes. All of this happens because of the arachidonic acid that you get from all of the animal products, which also means that it doesn't matter if it's free range or factory farmed. Yes, that makes a difference in terms of whether or not you're getting the antibiotics and all of that kind of stuff, but it does not make a difference in how inflammatory it is, which is why any kind of nutrition program that tells you that you can reverse an inflammatory illness while eating animal products is not correct. They don't know what they're doing. Okay, it's really important because when you look at the science, there is no way to eat animal products and not generate more inflammation. So I hope that makes a lot of sense to you. Now you may be wondering, well, why didn't my doctor tell me this? Why don't they know this information? Well, here's the thing. As a physician, I learned this pathway. I remember this pathway. And what we learn is exactly how these enzymes cause these products. And what we learn is which medicines to use to regulate these enzymes. So to interfere with 5-LOX, we use xyluten. Oh, well, if you want to stop blood clots, you get aspirin and ibuprofen. You probably have heard that, take an aspirin a day if you have blood clots to block COX-1. Or you can take Vioxx and Celebrex for COX-2. That's what I learned in medical school. They never taught us where does arachidonic acid come from and how do we stop this cascade by eliminating getting too much arachidonic acid. It never came up. And I don't remember one student in my class of over 100 people raising their hand to ask that question because we're bombarded with so much information every day. You just think anything important they're telling you, right? This is what we learn in medical school, how to medically stop this from happening. We don't learn how to prevent it by stopping the pathway. The other reason you may not have heard this from any doctor, some of you have, it's getting better. There are more and more doctors nowadays that are teaching people to reverse their symptoms or to stop their illness by getting rid of animal products. But not everybody has. And the other reason is because of this. Most doctors will not tell you to stop doing something that they do already because they don't want to think about it for themselves. For example, there was a doctor who did a research study recently that showed that if you give a vegan meat, he does not release the hormone that causes you to create blockages in your arteries. But if you give a meat-eater meat, he does release that. Why is that? Because we have different gut bacteria. Once you stop eating meat, you get healthy gut bacteria and they don't cause that problem. What did he decide the answer was? Find some medicine to kill that bacteria so it doesn't cause that hormone release, rather than stop eating meat so people stop dying of heart attacks, the #1 killer of people in our country today. So doctors are always looking for a way to kind of stop the process rather than prevent the process. And so to highlight that, I just wanted to show you an ad from the 50s showing that doctors say that, 20,679 doctors say that you should smoke Lucky's, that's going to be the best cigarette for you. Doctors were smoking, and so they were ignoring all of the FDA data that was showing that cigarettes were causing people to have emphysema and cancer. They were ignoring that because they didn't want to give up their own cigarette habit. And so doctors are humans, and they're going to have their own psychological biases based on their own addictions and problems as well. That is why I am empowering you to make the best decision for your health based on the real science. And you can try this yourself. Try eliminating the animal products and see how you feel, see how your pain goes down, see how much better you feel every day when you wake up. and you'll know yourself how much and how powerful this is. I'd much rather personally eat better than to have to take all of those pills. Now, I mentioned before that there are some diets out there that claim to be able to reverse inflammation and disease, but they still include animal products. And one of them is a paleo diet. Some of you might have heard of it. It's getting a lot of attention nowadays because people are saying that you could use a paleo diet or a diet that includes bone broth or eggs, and you can get rid of inflammatory illnesses like lupus. And it's just not the case. The people who get better are the people who aren't eating that much animal products to begin with. So they get rid of, paleo diet tells you to get rid of processed food. It tells you to get rid of dairy. And so when you do that, well, of course you're going to feel better, right? But the people who like to eat a lot of meat get worse. And I've had multiple people come to me now who either developed lupus or their lupus got drastically worse when they went on a paleo diet with a lot of meat. One of those people is named George. I'll just tell you really quick about him. I'm going to do all the case studies in the third class, but I just want to show you, for example, how that worked. So he's 35, and he had lupus for 2 years, and he had gotten a pulmonary embolism from tearing his calf muscle, and he was losing his hair. And the details aren't super important, but what I want you to see is, he was losing weight from the lupus, 11 pounds, and so he went online, he Googled, and he found out paleo. You can get rid of lupus on paleo, right? That's what it said online. And so he went paleo, and he just started eating lots of meat, and what happened was his kidneys started failing. So he had an onset of nephritis or kidney failure because of all the meat he was eating. Your kidney is supposed to filter all that stuff, and you can overwhelm it by having too much animal protein, especially when you've already got lupus. And so he came to me desperate. This was a man who does not want to be vegan, but he wants to be alive. And so what I did was I got rid of all that meat, and I put him on my hypernourishing diet, which I'm going to tell you more about the nourishment part of it in the next class, so make sure you don't miss that. And so what we did was he was already on all these medicines. They want to put him on more. His kidneys are failing. He went on my hypernourishment, which meant he got rid of all the meat, all the dairy, lots and lots of vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids, water. I'm going to tell you exactly how that works in the next class. But what happened was he started getting rapid improvements. So within a month, his SED rate went from 48 to 18, which is, the SED rate, ESR, measures inflammation in your body. No change in medication, just diet, and his measures of inflammation went down drastically. And he said that his bloods came in today and the inflammatory markers have dropped significantly. My kidney function is now only slightly abnormal. I know it's early, but I intend to stay the course. And my father started to knock back smoothies. So immediately his blood tests improved. And by 30 days after that, his rheumatologist is tapering him off his steroids. So here's someone whose doctor wanted him to go up in medication because he was on meds and his kidneys were failing. We changed his diet. We eliminated all that meat and dairy products. And there he goes. And the inflammation's coming down. His kidney disease had settled down. And his weight went up. A lot of people think, well, if you get rid of all the meat, aren't you going to get skinny? Doesn't have to be that way. When your body's healthy, it gains muscle when you want to. He was saying he got back to his previous healthy weight. And you can look, by the following month, his inflammation markers were completely normal. And he was back to exercising. And 6 months later, he was off all medicines with no clinical symptoms at all. So here's a man on the paleo diet, which causes his kidneys to fail from all that meat. He switches to my diet, gets rid of all that meat, and he's able to come off all of his medicines and completely reverse it. And you can see his SED rate, his measure of inflammation, was normal. His dsDNA markers were negative, and his kidney function was normal. And you can see he started out with his inflammation markers at 48 and 52. This is when he met me on medicines. And here he is off medicines with his inflammation down to 17. So I just want you to see that, to see the power of using your diet to get rid of inflammation. You can do it, and it works really, really fast. I'm going to show you some really awesome case studies in the third class, complete with videos from all the different people I talk about, where they can talk about what it was like for them and how their bodies changed. But I wanted to give you that little tidbit to just see how powerful it is just to remove the animal products from your diet. Now, there's another step. So that is all the first step to reducing and eliminating inflammation. Step 2 is going to be eliminating oils. And so I have just a whole bunch of different oils here. Now, I'm not talking about fats from plant food, so things like avocados or eating coconut. That's fine. I'm talking about actual oils, okay? So canola oil, soybean oil, all those different kinds of oils. We already talked about saturated fat, so I'm not including that. Although coconut oil is a saturated fat that will raise your cholesterol, so don't eat that. That's not a health food. Just put it on your skin. It's very nice topically. But you don't want to put oils in your food. Number one, oils like trans fats, they directly damage your blood vessels, and they cause the fatty blockages in your heart, right? And so there's still trans fats in a lot of foods. They've regulated some of the fast foods, but most of the frozen foods that you find with meat in them actually, and other, processed kind of chemicals actually have trans fats in them. Saturated fats, again, will damage your gut flora, as I talked about. And these are also directly inflammatory, except for olive oil. Olive oil is not directly inflammatory because it is not a source of what I'm going to show you, which is omega-6. It's really more of a source of omega-9, which is not really involved in inflammation. But olive oil will damage the endothelium, the healthy tissue in your arteries that's supposed to go to your heart. So if you have heart disease, you still don't want to use any olive oil either. But when I'm talking about inflammation, I'm talking about really the other ones: sunflower oil, safflower oil, grapeseed oil, soybean oil, all of those other kinds of oil, whatever Wesson is, I have no idea, the margarines, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you, using that pathway we looked at before, exactly how that works. Now, you're not going to be afraid of the pathway this time because you saw it. Now, vegetable oils, and I also put processed foods there because processed foods usually have a lot of oil in them as well. So vegetable oils and processed foods are going to be a big source of something called linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is then converted via an enzyme called delta-6 desaturase. Again, don't worry about all the names, but just follow the pathway. Becomes something called GLA, which becomes something called DGLA, which becomes arachidonic acid. This looks familiar, right? So arachidonic acid, again, if you remember, comes from meat and eggs. Boom, we're driving the arachidonic acid pathway again, which means you're going to have more of inflammation and cancer and heart attacks and disease. So for those of you who have never really understood why is it that eating meat could be bad for me, or why it's nonsense when people say you can eat meat and not get inflammation or heart disease or cancer, this is why. This is all really part of the same inflammatory pathway, which shows how your immune system actually reacts to getting inundated with vegetable oils and processed foods and meat. Now, speaking of processed foods, let me explain in a little more detail why those are so bad for you. So when I talk about processed foods, what I'm talking about is anything synthetic, anything that doesn't go bad. You go to the supermarket, anything down one of those aisles that doesn't require any kind of refrigeration and never goes bad. So when you're looking at, any kind of processed cereals, people love to think cereals are healthy. Let me tell you, if something says healthy on the box, it's not healthy. When have you ever seen healthy in the vegetable section of your supermarket? They don't need to do that, right? Because we know if it comes in a box and it doesn't go bad, or it doesn't go bad for weeks or months, that is not healthy. Bread should mold if it's left out. Why can bread sit there for weeks, right? All of that stuff is unhealthy. It's processed. It's got chemicals in it. They didn't even start labeling food until the 50s, because before then, it was just what it was. It was just food, right? Nowadays, we need labels because we have no idea what's going on. And even with the label, we look at it and go, I don't know what that is. You have to be a chemist to know what's in there. And what they found is when you eat processed foods, there's an inflammatory reaction that you can measure in your bloodstream. Literally about 30 minutes later, it looks like you've got an infection, when really that's the inflammatory reaction from the processed foods. Now, processed foods also have a lot of oils in them, as I mentioned before, which is going to continue that pathway, that omega-6 pathway of inflammation. So, think about it this way. If your grandmother wouldn't know that that was food because it didn't exist in her day, then it's not food, right? My grandmother, she grew up in Poland. There was no refrigeration, so they got fresh food every day, right? So, think about that. If it's something that wouldn't be just fresh, it's not something that could just grow outside and you would know what it was, that is a processed food. And so it's really, really important that your body gets the right kind of food where it knows what to do with it and it doesn't act like it's getting an infection every time you have a meal. Now, a lot of people nowadays are really living on meat and dairy and eggs and processed food and oils. That's their entire diet. And that's why right now we live in a society where people are so sick. They're overweight, they're underfed and undernourished, and severely ill. And so if you're one of those people right now that's suffering with a lot of pain and inflammation and disease, I want you to think about that and take inventory of that. One of the things I also see a lot of with people who eat processed food is there's now a lot of people who have non-alcoholic liver disease, where their livers are getting destroyed like an alcoholic's, but it's being caused by the enormous amounts of sugars they're eating. And most of those sugars are hiding in the processed foods, all that corn syrup and other sugar that's in processed foods. So literally the foods you're eating are just driving so much suffering. And so what I want you to do right now for your homework is I just want you to notice, get your pencil out, write this assignment down for yourself. I want you to notice, how are these foods affecting you right now? How much of these inflammatory foods am I eating? How much meat and dairy and eggs and processed foods and oils am I actually eating? And I want you to start thinking about how that might be affecting your health. And if you're ready to start looking at how would you like to start eliminating those from your diet so that you can get your health back. Now, the next time we meet, I'm going to be teaching you, what do I eat? Because that's probably the thing you're wondering. If I get rid of all that junk, what am I going to eat? Hey again, this is Dr. Goldner. I want to welcome you to class 2, which are the foods that you need to heal. So today you're going to be learning exactly that. What foods might be missing from your diet that you need to get your health back. I hope you love the class. Make sure you take notes, you follow the homework assignments at the end, and make sure if you haven't done so yet, you click the link at the end to sign up for the live Q&A that's coming up soon so I can answer all of your questions and make sure that you understand this information so that you can get your health back. I hope I see you there. Hello and welcome to class 2 of the 6 Steps to Healing with Supermarket Foods. My name is Dr. Brooke Goldner and I'm so glad you're here. Today what you're going to learn about are the 3 foods that are the 3 foods that are essential to healing. Now if you missed class 1, which were the 3 foods that are making you sick, don't worry, when you get the replay to this class, you're going to get a replay to class 1 as well. So if you missed that one or you just want to see it again, you can watch it right after you get the replay to this class as well. Now, I'm really excited you're here because that means that you are excited about getting healthy. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you were here last time, you learned that steps 1, 2, and 3 to healing involves eliminating inflammatory foods. So remember, when we're talking about inflammation, we're talking about chronic inflammation, which is what triggers disease. So the first 3 food groups that we learned about that are making you sick were number 1, the animal products, and that includes the dairy, the eggs, chicken, fish, all of that. And we learned how they are directly causing inflammation and disease. You also learned about oils and how those create inflammation in your body, and of course the processed foods, which immediately create inflammation after you eat them. Now, if you finished the last class and you look like this, because you went, oh my God, that's everything I eat. What am I supposed to do? Don't worry. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So, steps 4, 5, and 6 are all about how you can add healing foods to your diet. And what I mean by healing foods is I'm talking about the foods that you need that your body will use to create cellular repair. Realize that your body is born to repair itself. Healing is natural and it's normal. It's a default mechanism in our bodies. Think about the last time you cut yourself. Maybe you got a paper cut. You didn't go and get your sewing kit out so that you could sew the wound closed and repair it, right? All you did was you let your body do its job and it healed itself. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Your body can repair not only skin damage, but organ damage as well. It can heal autoimmune disease damage, but it needs to be given the right tools to be able to do that. Now, if your body can't reverse the disease, it's one of 2 problems. Either number 1, you've got so much inflammation going on because you continue to eat all the bad stuff that your body's overwhelmed. So for example, if you got not just one paper cut, but you got a paper cut and then you got another cut and another cut and another cut and you're bleeding from all these different holes all over your body, then no matter how much your body's trying to heal one wound at a time, it can never keep up and you're gonna bleed out, right? So if you're continuing to eat the foods that are causing damage, then you're going to overwhelm your body's ability to heal. Now, the other problem could be that you're not giving your body enough of the tools it needs from the healing foods in order to make the repair happen. So it wants to repair, but it can't. It physically can't. And the 3 food groups I'm going to teach about today are the ones that are essential for healing. You can't cherry pick on this one. You need all 3. So I want you to think of an example. Let's say you wanted to hire some people to build you a house. And so you hired some contractors, really, really good people, and you told them, listen, I want a 2-story house with bricks in the front. I want 3 bathrooms, and I want windows, huge windows in every room. And you give them a list of how this beautiful house is going to look. And then you give them a pile of wood, and you say, here you go, build my house. Now, it doesn't matter how much these contractors earnestly want to build your house. They cannot do it. They don't have enough tools. They don't have any drywall. They don't have any glass for the windows. They don't have any plumbing for the bathrooms. They just have a pile of wood. So they can do a little bit of work, but they can't build the house. And that's what's going on with you if you're not actually giving yourself the right foods that allow your cells to do the job that they desperately want to do, which is to repair your body and bring your health back. Now, the other thing to realize is, when you're getting sick, it's not just about whether or not it's not just about what you're eating, but also, what you're running out of. So for example, when you look at aging, you probably got some nutrients as a kid. Maybe your mom told you to eat your vegetables, or your mom nursed you and you got a lot of good healthy foods that way. Eventually though, if you don't replenish those tools and supplies, you'll start to get sick and you'll start to get old. And a lot of people in our society think that getting old means that you should get weaker and sicker. And it's normal in our society that people are on medications by the time they hit middle age. But it's not really normal in terms of what your body wants. It just means you ran out of the good stuff. And some of us run out younger. I had lupus by 16, and some of you run out older and you don't get, autoimmune disease or cancer or heart disease to your 50s. But it's still because you no longer have the right tools anymore to give yourself what they need. And aging really doesn't have to happen in such a negative way. And that's also why people who do my hypernourishment technique tend to start looking younger, because your body is not only repairing the disease, but when it's done repairing the disease, it repairs other cells, including your skin cells. And that's why people who do hypernourishment start to look younger. And that's a wonderful side effect to have. So how do you do it? How do you add those healing foods? Well, this is what we do. We nourish ourselves. We bring nutrients in that the body needs. But you know what? When you're sick, nourishment is not enough. It's just not enough. We hypernourish. Now, hypernourishment is something that I coined to explain the idea that I want to oversupply your body with what it needs for healing. So when we're looking at hypernourishment, we're talking about really bringing in more food, more nutrients than your body ever would normally consume at one time. So we make sure there's just no chance you're going to run out. We don't want to run out of the good stuff. So for example, again, if we go back to building the house, we don't want you to run out of drywall and now you can't make any more rooms. We'd rather have extra drywall. We want extra glass for the windows. We want everything that you could possibly use plus some, so that we know that no matter what, your body is getting what it needs. So what is the first step to consuming healing nutrients? The first one is a focus on raw vegetables. This is where the majority of the food that goes into your body needs to come from if you want to heal. And sadly, for most people, none of this is even on their daily diet, right? So you really need to load up on raw vegetables. And fruits, they're healthy, but not as healthy as vegetables. And that's because while fruit has vitamins and minerals in it, it has far fewer minerals, because minerals come from the soil. And we know someone who did some testing on sick Americans, and what he found was most of them were mineral deficient. So when you think about it, a fruit, is up on top of a tree. It's going to take a long time and a lot of nutrient depletion for all the nutrients to get up to that fruit. Whereas kale, that's sitting in the dirt, is right in contact with all those minerals in the soil. It's going to have a lot more minerals in it. So while fruit is perfectly fine, I don't consider it as much of a healing food as the vegetables are, because they have the most vitamins and minerals. And also looking at other phytonutrients, phytoenzymes, This is the medicine that your body actually wants. This is what your body uses to heal itself, to do the cellular repair. This is the drywall and the glass and the plumbing and everything that you need to build your house, okay? Really, really important. Now, when I'm talking about vitamins, a lot of times people will ask me, well, what about if I just take vitamin pills and take mineral pills? It's not a good idea, in terms of if you do that instead of doing this. Because first of all, your body knows how to absorb nutrients from whole foods. We're designed for that. Our guts are designed to do that. And it knows exactly how and how much to bring in. When you take a supplement, you have a possibility of overdosing on that supplement because your body can't control how much of it's going in. And you also don't have the ability to regulate it at all. So for example, I had a client who he had iron deficiency. And so he was taking a mineral pill that had iron in it. I got him going on my greens and on my diet, on hypernourishment. And at his next blood work, his iron was too high. And I said, wait a minute, are you still taking that iron pill? And he said, yeah, I am. I said, get off of that iron pill, get off the mineral pill. You're getting your iron from spinach now. So he got off the supplement, had it retested, and his iron was perfect. So your body can regulate what it absorbs and take what it needs from the from the vegetables, but whole foods. It can't regulate the vitamins and minerals that you take from a pill. So if you're super deficient in something, I'm not saying that taking a temporary supplement can't be useful. If your iron is dangerously low and you need to quickly raise it before, because you're anemic and you're dangerously anemic and you're gonna need a blood transfusion, oh my goodness, take the supplement, but then move towards eating foods that are rich in vitamins and minerals, and then you won't need the supplement anymore. And that's the true path to healing. It's just why I tell you, don't just drop all your medications and start doing the diet. Those medicines might be keeping you alive. But if you start nourishing yourself, hyper-nourishing yourself, now your body can heal, and that way you don't need the medicines anymore. And that's the way I do that with my clients. It's the way I did it with myself. Although people do come to me who, they're already refusing to take their meds, and I work with them and help them get healthy. Most people are already on them, and I let their doctors decide, wait a minute, I don't think you need this anymore. And that way we know they're safe throughout the process. Now, the most commonly eaten vegetable in our country, according to census data, is ketchup. Now, I think it was George Bush who decided that ketchup was a vegetable, and the FDA still counts that when they're looking at what kids are eating in school. And that's only if you assume tomatoes are vegetables, which some people argue with. But ketchup is the #1 eaten vegetable in our country. And the second most consumed vegetable, you might be, not surprised to hear, is French fries. So for most folks, they're not eating any of this except maybe a slice of tomato on their burger and maybe a piece of lettuce on their burger, but they're not getting all of the good stuff. And when they do eat vegetables, they're usually cooked. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, when you cook a vegetable, you break it down. You break down the enzymes, you lose nutrients, you lose nutrition. And so for the most part, you want to stick with raw vegetables for your actual nourishment. You can have cooked ones that taste good, they're fine. But when you're looking at hypernourishment, we look at the raw vegetables to make sure you're getting the most out of what you're eating. Now, this is why I get a lot of people who come to me who are actually plant-based or vegan already who are sick. Now, if you watch the first class, you'd go, wait, if they're plant-based or vegan, that means they're not eating all the meat, they're not eating the dairy, they should be healthy, right? Well, there's a couple things going on there. Number one is it's really easy to be an unhealthy vegan nowadays. If you go to Walmart, you can find vegan mayonnaise full of oil. You can find vegan fried chicken, right? So those things taste good, but they're highly processed, they're full of oil, they're inflammatory. So some vegans don't really eat healthy food and they still get sick. Other people are whole foods plant-based, meaning they're not eating any processed foods, they're not eating any meat or dairy, but they still have autoimmune disease. What's going on there? Well, usually they're missing one of the things that I'm going to teach you today. Actually, they always are in my experience. And one of them is often the raw vegetables. They're eating lots of cooked food, not enough raw, so we add that into their life. Now, the actual best ones you can eat in terms of nutrient density are usually the cruciferous vegetables. We're looking at broccoli and kale, cauliflower, super, super nutrient dense. Now, some people, when they hear cruciferous, get excited because they know how great they are for you. And other people go, oh my God, I heard if you have hypothyroid, that's going to be really bad for you. Well, I've read some stuff about that, but when I look at what's actually happening with my clients, they're getting better. I have someone who was just in one of my groups who had hypothyroid disease, and she has Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is very common in our society. It's autoimmune. Your immune system destroys your thyroid. So she's taking a medicine, a thyroid medicine, Synthroid, to give her the thyroid hormone back, but nothing is stopping the autoimmune chronic inflammation that caused the disease to begin with. So still overweight, still tired, really foggy brain, but has thyroid hormone. Nothing changed in terms of her overall health. She did my 6-week rapid recovery group where people come into my group for 6 weeks. It's online. I use a secret Facebook group so that people can use Facebook to heal, but it's secret, so you can't actually find the group if you're not in it. And she was in there for 6 weeks. We hyper-nourished her. She ate lots of kale. And guess what? Not only did she feel amazing, oh my goodness, within the first couple weeks, she was full of energy. She lost so much weight. She was back in her high school clothes, and she was back to exercising again. And she's one of my health missionaries that's always tagging me on Facebook, telling people, oh my God, you've got to do this. I can't believe how great I feel. So you really want to look at targeting the entire body and the healing, and not just replacing the one hormone that's missing because you haven't stopped the process. So if you're nervous about it anyway, fine, vary it. Have kale one day, have spinach the next. But don't forget to add the cruciferous vegetables to your diet because you still need them. Now, again, this should be, the vegetables should be the majority of what you eat. It shouldn't just be this much of your plate and the rest of it is pasta or the rest of it is meat. It should be the majority of your plate, like 75% of your plate are your vegetables. And then let the 25% be your beans and quinoa and cooked vegetables and things like that. That way you know you're skewing your body in the direction of healing. Now, when people are in my rapid recovery group, I have them have their whole plate is going to be the raw vegetables, right? Because I'm trying to heal them as rapidly as possible in 6 weeks. But if you're just taking steps in that direction, start making that plate more and more full of the really healthy healing vegetables. What is the next step? The next step is high dose omega-3 fatty acids. And when I'm talking about fatty acids, I'm talking about flax seeds and chia seeds primarily. These have been just amazingly successful in getting my clients to heal really rapidly. Flax seeds and chia seeds. And I'm talking about the whole seeds. You can see these are intact. Now, you don't want to eat them whole because they, well, unless you're constipated, because whole seeds will just, slide right on out of your body and they'll look the same when they come out as when they get one in. But when you are ready to consume them, that's when you grind them up. So you grind them up just per serving because that way you'll absorb it more. You won't absorb it if they're whole. But you don't want to grind them up in advance because they oxidize. And so when they oxidize, when they get exposed to air, they actually become less active or inactive. So for people who are buying pre-ground or even the flaxseed oil, that's not going to be as active as grinding up fresh seeds just as you need them. So what's so great about this? I call these the good fat. This is the good fat, right? You can feel good about it. So many things. These are a secret to my success in healing people because so many people are deficient in these. See, omega-3 fatty acids are essential fatty acids. And what that means is our body can't make them. Our body needs them. It needs us to consume them. We need to eat them. And yet most people I meet have never even had any of this before unless they accidentally had some seeds on a piece of bread they had. They've never actually consumed them before. Now, flax seeds and chia seeds are a source of ALA, which your body converts into EPA and DHA, and I'm going to show you exactly how it does that. And I know for myself, once I added omega-3s to my life, my joint pains disappeared. I felt so fluid, and that's what I see happening with my clients as well, that I'll see people who are eating whole foods plant-based, but they still have some joint pain, they still have some issues going on. They add their omega-3s, and immediately they start feeling better. Let me show you why. There's a few things that this does that makes it one of my favorite nutrients in the world. Number one is it integrates into your cellular membranes. So when you're looking at your body under a microscope, we are made of cells. And each cell has a membrane around it, okay, that makes it waterproof because it's water-based on the inside, it's water-based on the outside in your blood and fluids. And so there is a phospholipid membrane. It's a membrane that's made of fats so that it keeps the water out of the cells so they don't just dissolve. Right? Now those membranes are supposed to have a high percentage of omega-3 fatty acids in them, and that is how our membranes stay very fluid and able to move easily. It's kind of like if you can imagine if there's let's say your body says, hey, I want you to eliminate some inflammation, throw out some toxins, and that message comes down, and here's a cell that doesn't have any omega-3s or very little, and it's rigid and stiff, and the message comes and bounces right off, and it never even received it, right? Versus when your body has lots of omega-3s, you've got nice and flexible cells, that message comes down and it just grabs it and holds on to it. Let me show you what that looks like. So if you look over here, here's a healthy flexible membrane that has a lot of omega-3s in it. And what it says here is nutrients easily pass in, toxins easily pass out. That's what you want to happen. You want your body to easily take in the nutrients and pass them out. Now, if you have a tough, rigid membrane because you've got too much omega-6, nutrients can't get in. See how this one gets in, but these two bounce right off that rigid membrane? And look at all these toxins here, and only one of them got out. All of these are stuck. So if you are someone who is whole foods plant-based, but you're not all the way healed, and you're not eating omega-3s because maybe you read somewhere that fat's bad for you, this is why. Because here you are eating all this beautiful, healthy food, and it can't get in. That is a nightmare, right? But easily fixed. And that's why when people come to me, I've had a lot of doctors come to me that are whole foods plant-based, that teach their patients how to be whole foods plant-based vegans to get healthy, but they don't know very much about the omega-3 pathway. When those doctors come to me and go, I don't know why I'm sick, a lot of times this is a reason because they read things that say you should avoid fats. But what they didn't realize is that the fats that cause harm are the ones that lead to the omega-6 fatty acids, the trans fats, and the saturated fats. But this fat in particular, the flax seeds, the chia seeds, the omega-3s are essential for healing, health, and metabolism, because this works the same way when you're looking at fat loss. Because if your body sends a signal that says, hey, so-and-so has been on the elliptical machine for an hour, can you release some fat? And it sends that message down and it bounces off the cell and the fat cell stays. So when you increase omega-3 fatty acids, even though it's a fat, when you increase it, people have dramatic fat loss because their metabolism gets faster. And what metabolism really is your body's, how rapidly your body reacts to things. So if you remember from class 1 when I talked about my own healing, I started eating this way because I was trying to lose weight for my wedding, and I lost a dramatic amount of weight. I went from 11 to 3 in 3.5 months. But then what happened too is my body healed. And that's when my husband and I realized that metabolism really is your body's ability to do what you ask it to do in real time. Are you asking it to build muscle? Are you asking it to lose fat? Are you asking it to heal? When you send out the question, the only way the cells will be able to answer it and receive it is if you're eating enough omega-3 fatty acids for your body to actually get the signal. This is vitally, vitally important. Now, that's not all that omega-3s do. Omega-3s are also the primary lipid or fat that are used in your brain cells or your neurons. So it's one of the building blocks of healthy neurons and brain cells. This is why the studies have shown that mothers who consume omega-3 fatty acids have babies that have higher IQs, because while you're pregnant, you are building the brain of your baby, and you're building their brain out of omega-3 fatty acids, which are much, much better at functioning normally and will give them a higher IQ, as well as better, more stable moods as well. Now, it improves memory, mood, and cognitive function. This is a really, really powerful thing. You know, I actually saw a study once where a psychiatrist was using high doses of omega-3s to help people come down off their bipolar medicine. That's extraordinary. So again, don't change your medicines without the help of your doctor, but it's really about creating brain cells that know how to function. You know, there's so many people nowadays that are suffering from depression and anxiety. It's the number one reason people go to their primary care doctor, right? So depression is rampant, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one is they're malnourished. They're not getting enough raw foods to nourish their brain. And number two, they don't have enough omega-3 fatty acids to make brain cells that function normally and properly. So that's really, really important as well. It's also anti-aging for the brain as well as the body. And it's protective against dementia and Alzheimer's. I get a lot of questions nowadays about how you could prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. This is a really important way to do that. Now, there's been a lot of studies looking at this. One of them showed that a DHA supplement for 24 weeks, and DHA is an omega-3 fatty acid, for 24 weeks, gave people a net improvement in learning and memory that was equivalent to 3.5 years. So these people with Alzheimer's got 3.5 years worth of memory back or function back just from the DHA supplement. Another fascinating study I read specifically linked ALA. ALA is the omega-3 that's in chia seeds and flax seeds. When people take something like fish oil, they don't get any ALA. They go right to the EPA and DHA. ALA is converted into EPA and DHA in our bodies. So a lot of people thought ALA was not useful, but it turns out that ALA specifically is neuroprotective, and it slowed dementia progression and improved biomarkers in people with Alzheimer's. So for people who are just getting the fish oil and they're not getting their omega-3s through the flax seeds and chia seeds, they're missing out on the ALA, and the ALA is what could really protect them from advancing their disease or protect you from ever getting the disease to begin with, because it's always better never to get sick than to have to heal. So that's really, really important, and it's not over yet. Omega-3s also create the anti-inflammatory immune cells. And here this guy is saying, no, I'm not getting any inflammation. Your omega-3 fatty acids, this is how your body creates the anti-inflammatory immune cells. So you remember from the last class, I showed you how your body creates inflammatory immune cells from dairy and from meat and from eggs and from oils, right? Well, now this is how your body creates the anti-inflammatory immune cells. Let me show you how it works. Now remember, don't get overwhelmed by all the stuff on the slide. Just try to follow me to the end result, okay? Let's look at the omega-3 fatty acid pathway. Now, omega-3 fatty acids, so we're looking here at flax seeds and chia seeds. They are a source of ALA, right there. And remember, ALA can be protective for your brain when it comes to dementia, Alzheimer's. Now, ALA is broken down by delta-6 desaturase enzyme to stearidonic acid, which is broken down to eicosapentaenoic acid, which is broken down to EPA, and we get some DHA here. Now, EPA and DHA is what you normally hear about when people talk about omega-3 fatty acids. This is where it comes from. Now, the EPA and DHA are broken down by COX into prostaglandin E3, which is anti-inflammatory. It goes through your body to remove inflammation, and is broken down by LOX enzyme into leukotriene B5, which is anti-inflammatory. So this is what you're looking for. This is what you want for your body. If you're trying to get rid of inflammation, you need to eat your omega-3s or you'll never create the anti-inflammatory pathway. If you're not getting better and you're not consuming omega-3s, this could be the key reason why. Now, if you remember from last time, here's the omega-6 pathway I said last time, right? Now, don't get overwhelmed again. Omega-6 pathway. Remember, vegetable oils, land animal fats, and processed foods, delta-6 desaturase gets broken down to arachidonic acid. We get more arachidonic acid from meat, dairy, seafood, and eggs, and arachidonic acid is broken down into prostaglandin E2 and leukotriene B4, which are both inflammatory, right? So don't worry about the details, just remember inflammatory, right? Now we look at the omega-3 pathway. Flax seeds and chia seeds, ALA, also delta-6 desaturase, gets broken down, boom, anti-inflammatory pathway. Now here is something really, really important to understand. You may have heard, maybe even from your doctor, that you can't break down chia seeds and flax seeds into enough EPA and DHA for it to really be effective. This is why that can happen. Delta-6 desaturase, this enzyme is essential for both pathways, but the enzyme prefers the omega-6 pathway, which means that if you are eating vegetable oils and land animal fats and processed foods, then you are basically hijacking this enzyme to that pathway. And yes, there's not enough enzyme left to really do a good job at converting this. This is why my program works so well, because if you eliminate the vegetable oils and the animal fats and the processed foods, then what happens is all of this enzyme can go this way, right? And when that happens, bam, shazam, alakazam, we got tons of EPA and DHA because the enzyme is just massively converting now. When I teach this to doctors and healthcare practitioners, I can hear their jaws and their pencils hit the floor at the same time because they never quite understood this pathway this way before. So when this happens, of course, you're creating tons and tons of anti-inflammatory immune cells. And another really cool thing is that EPA actually inhibits or blocks the breakdown of arachidonic acid. So the more EPA and DHA you create, the more you stop the breakdown of arachidonic acid into inflammatory immune cells. And this is why I'm able to hack into people's immune systems. I call it hacking into their immune systems, because what I do is I shut down the inflammatory pathway with nutrition. I use food to shut down the inflammatory pathway by getting rid of the inflammatory foods, and then hyper-nourishing, oversupplying all the healing foods to just create a body that's just reversing inflammation super, super fast. Now, you might be wondering how much to eat. Well, when it comes to omega-3 fatty acids, you want to just, it really depends on how quickly you're looking to get better. If you're already fairly healthy, then a handful a day will work just fine. Again, grind them up right before you use them. Or if you're making a green smoothie with them, put them right into the Vitamix. The Vitamix will chew them up just fine. For people who are in my healing programs, I'm trying to hack that pathway really, really rapidly. They usually start at a half a cup of omega-3s a day, and then I keep pushing that number up because there's no limit. We have studied people on thousands and thousands and thousands of calories of omega-3 fatty acids, and what we've found is they only get better faster, and they lose fat faster also if they're trying to lose fat. And for people who are devastatingly frail and thin, they actually are able to build muscle faster because their metabolism is working better. So really what tends to limit people is if you have more fat than you can absorb in a serving. Fats are slippery and you'll just poop it right out. So you try to spread it out. So I would say to have, a little bit at a time throughout the day. So let's say you make a full blender of green smoothie with a half a cup of omega-3s. You're going to sip on that slowly throughout the day. That'll work just fine. But, I've had people before say they had a big cup of omega-3s by having chia pudding, and then they had chia pooping. And I said, first of all, you got to chew. And second of all, you need to spread it out. Maybe have a little bit of chia pudding after each meal so you can absorb it. Because if you don't absorb it, well, it doesn't hurt you, but you don't get the benefit. So I hope you're really, really convinced now on why you need to add omega-3s to your diet. Now, what's step number 6? Step number 6 is high water intake. And there I am chugging my water down. Oh, let me grab some of that. I brought a straw this time. Water, water, water. Water is essential for healing. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the reason a lot of people do not get better, is because they are so dehydrated. Every chemical reaction that needs to take place when it comes to not just fat loss, but also changing your metabolism for muscle building and of course for healing, all of those chemical reactions require water. If you're not drinking enough water, your body literally can't get rid of the inflammation. So just like not having omega-3s blocks the signal from coming, well, not having enough water means even if the signal gets into the cell that says, hey, let's get rid of some toxins, all right, cool, send us some water and we'd be happy to do it. Can't do it. So again, your contractors, now they have no nails. They got everything else, but there's no nails. They can't put the walls together. We're done, right? So a lot of folks, again, I've seen people before where their nutrition looked really good. They were hyper-nourishing with vegetables. They were eating omega-3s, 24 ounces of water a day, or even 64 ounces of water a day. That's not enough for healing. When you want to make a dramatic change in your health, you have to have more than you would normally think you need. So 8 glasses a day, that might be okay for maintaining your health when you're already well. But if you're trying to heal yourself from a disease, your body needs a lot more water if it's going to do that, because if it runs out, healing stops. Your body's going to use the water you gave it to keep your blood pressure up, to make sure your kidneys are filtering, all of that stuff that's essential for your day-to-day functioning. Nothing's going to be left over for your healing process. So what I've found is, watching people try these programs for years and years and years now, is that when people have less than 96 ounces a day, they just don't get the results. They get some results and then they plateau. And so if that's you, if you've been plateauing, or if you just feel like you've hit a wall and you're not getting better, it may be your water intake. Now, the ideal amount of water, if you're over 120 pounds, I usually get you to a gallon of water a day. If you're under 120 pounds, drink your body weight in water in terms of however many pounds you are, that many ounces. So if you're 100 pounds, aim for 100 ounces of water. If you're over 120 pounds, aim for a gallon, which is 128 ounces, okay? That is what it needs. And it's interesting because bodybuilders have known for, decades that if they want to massively change their body and force their bodies to put on tons of muscle, they need to drink a gallon of water a day. Same for fat loss. They've known that. They don't know why. They just know that if I want to lose fat or gain muscle, I need a gallon of water a day. Well, the same is true for healing, because what you're asking your body to do is change. You're asking it to do something different. You're asking it to do more jobs than normal, which means it needs more water to do it. Another thing water is really going to do is help you detoxify. So for people who have tried, let's say, added green smoothies or going plant-based, and then they suddenly felt worse, they went through a detox process where, oh my God, I have headaches and I feel nauseous and kind of flu-like symptoms. I got a rash. Those are normal detox symptoms that a lot of people go through. And it happens because suddenly you're hypernourishing and your body's like, release the toxins. And then they all go out into your bloodstream and you feel worse. But it's not that the healthy foods are making you feel worse. It's that the healthy foods are allowing your body to release the stored toxins, which make you feel worse. Now, in my healing programs, usually people's detox symptoms don't last more than 2 weeks. And one of the reasons is because we have the water levels so high, it allows them to eliminate those toxins even faster. So make sure that you're doing that as well. Now, water is really, really fascinating. It's just so underestimated in terms of what it does for us. Dehydration is the most common cause of migraines and headaches. So, when you are low on water, it actually pulls water out of the cells in your brain, and that causes them to tug on the sides of your skull, and that tugging feeling causes a headache. I've helped so many people eliminate a headache just by having them drink about 30, 40 ounces of water and then wait a little bit and drink some more, and it goes away, right? Really, really important. Water is the most common cause of headache, or dehydration is. The other most common cause of, the most commonly caused issue from dehydration is constipation. So for a lot of people, this is an issue that many, many people go to the doctor about, is that they're so constipated. They can't move anything out and they feel so horrible. Well, if you're constipated and you go on this program, that's probably not going to last very long, because one, you got all the fiber from all those greens, and then the water. You have to understand that water is absorbed in your large intestine. And what it's supposed to do, the water is actually supposed to be the river that carries the poop out of your colon, okay? So the water is absorbed in the large intestine as you're defecating to pull the water back into the body, but it allows it to actually remove the poop. So if you think about it, not having enough water is like trying to go down a water slide. Those tube water slides, try to go down one of those with no water, all right? Imagine yourself laying there and you're just like, right, trying to move down the slide. That's what's happening in your colon if you're dehydrated. So if you're not able to pass your poop, then I want you to up your water intake so that you can create that nice water slide that just sends it right out of there. There is nothing that makes somebody happier than regular bowel movements, I swear. So make sure that you're doing that. All right. So, and another really common symptom I see in people that are dehydrated is low energy. You can't have energy if you're dehydrated. If you're wondering why I'm always so up and active, I am so nourished. Okay. Most common cause of low energy is dehydration and low nutrition. So when you add hypernourishment, where you're having your omega-3, so your brain is spot on and you're getting all your nutrients from your kale, and then you add the water, you've got so much energy. So if your energy is low in spite of getting a lot of sleep, then it's because you're malnourished or you're dehydrated. So I really hope you start to see really how important this is. And also water is involved in the aging process as well. It's one of those things that are necessary to keep our cells really, really healthy. And so if you're dehydrated, you accelerate the aging of your internal organs and your one external organ, your skin. And that's why when people join my programs, their skin starts to glow and they look so healthy and so youthful, is because they're so nourished. And your skin is the one organ you have that's visible to the world. And it's also the last organ to receive nutrition and hydration. So if you've got skin problems right now, you've got rashes, pimples, you've got hives, you've got tons of lines on your face or wrinkles, all of that is because of your malnutrition, and all of that can get reversed, okay? Because that's just basically your body saying, hey, look how sick we are. So a lot of times your skin is the first place you see damage because it gets the least amount of nutrition. When you hypernourish, you've got more than enough nutrition for your internal organs and plenty left over to nourish your skin. So that's another great side effect, is you get glowing, healthy skin, and who doesn't want that? But on top of that, that means your internal organs are also getting aging reversed and functioning better than they ever have. And I see that all the time. I see organs healing all the time. I have a client I'm going to show you on Sunday in our case studies class who came to me with 14% kidney function because she had lupus nephritis and her kidneys were failing and failing and failing. She was on the kidney transplant list. And her doctor said, there's nothing you can do. Nothing's going to save you. But she went into my rapid recovery group, and within 6 weeks, she went from 14% kidney function to 27% kidney function. Medically impossible according to Western medicine, but she nourished herself so well that her organs healed. Her kidneys are healing. She no longer needs a transplant. I'm going to tell you more about her story on Sunday. But I want you to realize that all of these are essential to releasing that inflammation to stop the disease process, and then also allows you to heal your organs as well. Your body wants to heal. It's just waiting for you. Now, when you think about, okay, how does this all work together? It works really rapidly. I've seen so many people who've been sick for many, many, many years, and within weeks, they're going, oh my God, I've got energy and I feel good. And I get these messages all the time from people. I'll show you a text message I got, and this is just normal for me. So here's a text message, and I'll read it to you because it's kind of far from you. It says, 1 week of vegan hypernourishment and eating equals no pain meds, no felt inflamed joints, no muscle soreness, no gallbladder pain, better sleep, more energy. I could go on forever. I don't know why I let the holidays interfere, but I'm so glad I'm back. Thank you, Dr. G. And then also no anxiety meds and no NSAIDs, no painkillers. And I lost 14 pounds. That was 1 week. 1 week. And then she said, sorry to blow up your phone. And then I answered with, oh my God face. And it says, woohoo! And then after that, she wrote, well, I don't know, oh my God, my blood sugar also. So I eat fruits like a monkey. I have my blood sugar tested, and even after my smoothie and my gourmet plate of fruit, my blood sugar was 70 something. That's crazy. A lot of people think that fruit is the culprit when it comes to high blood sugar, but if you saw in class 1, the real reason people get type 2 diabetes is because the insulin resistance from the animal fats, okay? So she got rid of the animal protein because she's doing hypernourishment, and boom, blood sugar dropped. So I love getting messages like that. And then I got some more messages from her. Hey, guess what? And then I discovered Bitmoji. What happened? I've gotten a negative ANA test and a few others back within normal ranges since going to learn this from you and changing my health. It's getting closer and closer. I'm going to be cured. And I said, high five. How long since you've had a positive ANA? She said, this makes the 5th month of positive ANA. And I had my first positive in 2006 when I was active Air Force duty. Guess what? I've started running again. Her rheumatologist told her that she'll never be able to run again because of her lupus. Well, guess what? She's back to running again. And of course, I text the way I talk, so it's very exciting. And then she wrote, oh my God, thank you. I've always wanted to run a full marathon. I believe I'm going to be able to do it now. And she has. So this is what can happen to you if you hypernourish yourself. When I first saw her, she could barely even tolerate sitting in the chair to learn from me. Now she's training for a marathon. That is what happens to your body when you start to hypernourishment. I hope you're getting excited. Sunday night, I'm going to introduce you to so many different real people who've been able to reverse their diseases and tell you exactly how they ate and how they did it. I just want to wet your whistle a little bit for how that's going to happen. So how do I help these folks do it? Well, this is what I call my hypernourishing healing protocol. So my hypernourishing healing protocol really takes all the different things that I've been teaching you and puts it together into one program for people who are looking for my help to get it done. And so what that looks like is, I either do it 4 weeks one-on-one where people have unlimited access to my cell phone, or 6 weeks through my group program, and all that's online. And it uses the 6 steps to healing with supermarket foods. So there's no animal products, no processed foods, no added oils, and we do hypernourishment. Hypernourishment is what you guys are learning about, right? Now it's all raw vegetables. You got some fruits, greens, nuts, seeds, at least 64 ounces of green smoothie a day, which I'm going to teach you more about in a moment. And they've got high water intakes. So remember, the 96 ounces minimum, but you really want to shoot for a gallon if you're over 120 pounds. And then high omega-3s, at least half a cup a day. And so that's what folks are doing with me in either one of my programs. And what I do with them is I work with them every single day to figure out, okay, how do we make this work for you? For a lot of people, while the ideas are simple, putting it into action can be really hard. Either they don't have the support, or they're not tolerating it well, maybe their stomach's hurting, or they're having trouble getting it all in, they're not sure exactly how to do it or what to eat. And so I help them every single day. So either one-on-one for 4 weeks, or my favorite program, which is my 6-week rapid recovery group. Next one starts October 6th, by the way. And that's where I help a whole bunch of people at once, and they all help each other. But we do it every single day to make sure everybody's able to do it and everybody gets results. That's the most important thing to me. And so people who are in either the group or working with me one-on-one, we have daily contact, they have a daily diet log, and they tell me what they ate, and they told me how much omega-3s and how much water, and they rate their pain and their swelling and really tell me about everything going on in their life. And I help them conquer their bad habits. You know, if you're trying this, if you've been watching me and you've come to my other lectures and you're still not doing this, something's getting in your way. It's either negative thinking, or it's some kind of bad habits you have, or maybe you're not good at prioritizing yourself. And I help people conquer that, because if you want the health that you've been dreaming of, you need to be able to do this. You need to make it happen. And I live for this. I live for helping people heal and get their lives back. And so I make sure I teach you how to conquer your habits, your bad habits. You get immediate support and help as soon as you need it. And then I also manage the stress and negativity. You know, stress is inflammatory. Depression, anxiety is inflammatory. Help you also manage and control those as well, so the nutrients can do their job and your body can heal. So that's my favorite thing to do. So if you're interested in that, if you go to goodbyelupus.com and click on group healing, you can learn more about it there. Really, really fun and life-changing. We're actually, tomorrow is the last day of my current group, and they're doing great. Right now, I already have someone who, she's completely reversed all of her lupus labs. They've been reversed since week 5. Other people whose pain is down to 0, and their labs are just, all their negative labs are dropping like bricks. And one person went from barely able to walk to walking. You know, it's remarkable to see that in 6 weeks, people's lives can change dramatically. And so I'm going to introduce you to more people like that. But if you want to be a part of it, check it out, and I'd love to help you guys heal. So let me give you some tips on how to hypernourish. This is something that my husband and I call the smoothie solution. So if you're getting intimidated by the idea, how am I going to have 10, 12 cups of vegetables a day? How am I going to eat all that kale? I don't like salad. What am I going to do? Blend it, okay? The smoothie solution. So what we do is we have people create green smoothies so that they can drink their greens. You know, a lot of people just have trouble, especially if you're eating, you know, the standard American diet where it's just processed foods and burgers and things like that. The idea of eating all those vegetables doesn't sound that good. But what we found is if you take a blender, I recommend a high-powered blender like a Vitamix, which is a professional grade, blends everything down and doesn't die. You take a nice high-powered blender, 75% greens like spinach or kale or a combination of those, and pack it down so it's really 75%, not just air mixed in with greens. Pack that down, put your omega-3 fatty acids in there, your chia, your flax seeds, and then for the last quarter of it, the 25%, put your fruit in. And what's amazing is if you use this formula, it'll still taste like fruit. And I've had people who will not eat a vegetable love their green smoothies. So if you want to just be able to put a straw on it and be done thinking about it and know that you got all your nutrients in, the smoothie solution is really the way to go. My husband and I created a free online community for people to learn how to make green smoothies, drink them every day, get their exercise in. And if you want to join that community, it is 100% free. Go to smoothieshred.com, smoothieshred.com right there. And you have an option. If you go to that website, take a screenshot if you need to, okay? Go to that website, and we have free recipes. So you can get some recipes on making green smoothies that you really like, and you have the option of joining our Facebook group. And there's over 6,000 people from all over the world that are just making their smoothies and supporting each other. You don't have to be plant-based or anything like that, just committed to drinking your greens. So I strongly encourage you to join our family there. It's just, it's really fun and it's wonderful. And of course, if you don't want to drink it, you can make healing meals. So you are welcome to eat the biggest salads possible. I personally love salads. I could eat just, oh my gosh, I could eat salads like crazy. I love, you know, one of my favorite healing meals is super easy. It's just broccoli dipped in guacamole. And I could eat so much broccoli if I have guacamole, right? So there's lots of different ways. You know, you could start out with, you know, go to Costco, get a veggie platter, throw the ranch in the trash, because that's inflammatory. plop down one of their avocado packages, boom, now you got veggies to eat. So it doesn't have to be fancy. If you want it to be fancy, you can. You can totally make beautiful, amazing raw vegan plates that are really all vegetables, but they're tacos or they're, or pasta or things like that. And actually, I have a book that I'm working on right now that's going to be all healing meals, because this is something people ask about. And the people who join my group, you guys get an advanced copy of it. It's not ready to be published yet, but the people in my group are saying it's just big game changer to have those options. But of course, you can make it easy. You can do big salads, you can do veggie platters, anything like that. Just try to remember to make the majority of your food, 75% of your food, if you're trying to heal, that should be coming from those raw vegetables, okay? And so you can totally do it this way. That dressing, don't start thinking that's ranch. The dressing that I'm eating is actually, it's an almond Caesar dressing. And if you're in my Smoothie Shred group, the recipe for that one is there as well. So, I hope that your mind is now just brimming with excitement, maybe a little bit of fear, but brimming with excitement for how you can start adding healing foods. This is where the hope comes in, guys. If you found out today that I am not eating enough raw vegetables, I am not getting enough omega-3s, I'm not drinking enough water, then that's good news, okay? Because what that means is that you're missing something that you need for healing, and you can fix that. Whenever someone comes to me and their diet is terrible, I go, I have great news for you. Your diet's terrible. We can fix it, right? That's great news, right? So if you're missing any of the nutrients I talked about today, that's something easy you can fix. So here's the homework I have for you, all right? I want you to start adding healing foods to your diet every day. Maybe you can even start tonight. If you normally have something kind of junky before bed, maybe you can have a little salad before bed. That's actually my favorite nighttime snack. But start thinking about, how can I add healing foods? Do you want to add more salads? Do you want to add more broccoli and guacamole? Do you want to start doing your smoothies? Smoothies are a very easy way to add healing foods into your day. And literally you put a straw in it and put it in your cup holder in your car and you go. Okay, so your homework this week is to go ahead and add healing meals. And of course, if you haven't watched class 1, make sure you watch that as well. Very, very important for you to understand, because all 6 steps are necessary for healing, okay? Every step you take will take you towards better health. When you put them all together, that's when the miracles happen. And speaking of miracles, you're gonna meet real people from all over the world that I've helped reverse diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and scleroderma and Sjogren's and so many more, all doing exactly what I've been teaching you. So I want you to be excited and ready now that you're masters of the 6 steps to healing with supermarket foods. I want you to see how this program is able to take people from supremely unhealthy, dying, to running marathons, getting married, getting jobs, living without fear, and living extraordinary health the way I do. Hey, it's Dr. Goldner again. Welcome back. This is class 3, case studies in reversing autoimmune disease with supermarket foods. This is my favorite class. What you're going to see are the steps you need to take to actually turn the information you learned in class 1 and class 2 into rapid recovery. And you're going to see dozens of case studies of how I helped many people actually get their health back from autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, Sjogren's, MS, so many more, using the program that you are learning about right now. So make sure you buckle up, you learn all the information while you're there, and make sure you come to the live Q&A I'll be holding soon so that you can get all of your answers and make sure you know what to do so you can get your health back as well. Hello everybody, and welcome to everyone's favorite class that I teach. This is the case studies in reversing autoimmune disease with supermarket foods. We're going to take all the information that you learned in class 1 and class 2 about the foods that make you sick and the foods we use for rapid recovery, and I'm going to show you how it works in real people. I hope you see yourself in a lot of the people I show you today, so you realize that this is possible for you. Once again, I want to thank all of you for showing up today. This is about your health and your body. So you're not showing up for me, you're showing up for yourself. And this might change your life forever. Let's not waste any time. Let's get started right away. So, I want to review really quickly for those of you who either missed the first 2 classes and you still got to catch up, or you saw them but you need a little refresher. The 6 steps to healing with supermarket foods. Number 1, 2, and 3 are all about eliminating inflammatory foods. So that is number 1, the animal products, number 2, the oils, and number 3, the processed foods, okay? Now, the next step, of course, is adding in your healing foods, which is going to be your tons and tons of raw vegetables, especially the greens, especially cruciferous vegetables. Number 2 is going to be making sure that you get in your omega-3 fatty acids from chia seeds and flax seeds. And number 3 is drinking lots of water, at least 96 ounces a day, to make sure you have enough water to fuel the healing process. Let's dive right into the case studies. The first study I want to show you is a case study in rheumatoid arthritis, where someone went from what they thought was a healthy American diet to the hypernourishing healing diet. I want to introduce you to Dana. Now, Dana met my mother in a furniture store, and anyone who knows my mother knows that as soon as you meet her, for some reason you tell her your whole life story. Well, this is the case with Dana. And she started telling my mother about her rheumatoid arthritis, and my mom said, "You have to meet my daughter. She'll help you." So Dana called me, and I put her on the hypernourishing healing protocol. But before we go into what I did, let's look at what she was eating before. And I want you to use the knowledge I already taught you to see if you can pick out what's wrong with her diet and why it was actually keeping her sick, even though she thought it was healthy. First, let's look what she had for breakfast. So for breakfast, she had oatmeal, fruit, protein shake, eggs, and an English muffin. I want you to use the chat right now and start talking about what do you think it is that's causing that. And if you don't have a chat, start thinking about it in your head. What is it that's going on right now that could be causing her to get sick from breakfast? All right, well, I'm going to help you out here. First of all, we have inflammatory foods. So let's look for animal products. Protein shake made with whey protein, which comes from dairy. Second, we have eggs. Rich source of arachidonic acid fuels the inflammatory pathway. English muffin, a processed food. Now let's look at healing foods. I don't see any greens. I don't see any water. I don't see any omega-3 fatty acids. She had some fruit, which it has a little bit of vitamins in it, so that's something. But overall, her breakfast is inflammatory. The oatmeal, I'll give her a neutral on that. Let's look at the next one. Lunch. Well, for lunch, she had lean cuisine at work. Now, how many of you already know that's bad on a lot of levels? It's all the bad food, right? We've got oils, we've got processed foods, we've got animal products. Very inflammatory lunch. And snacks. Okay, snacks, we have carrots, nuts, a lot of protein bars, apple, and string cheese. So the inflammatory foods are what? We got animal products and the string cheese and the protein bars, right? That probably has whey protein in it. And then we look for, let's see, anything with oils in it, perhaps the protein bars. And let's see here, the protein bars are also processed. And in terms of healing foods, well, she's eating some carrots. So you've got a little bit of vitamins and minerals in there, especially if she's eating whole carrots, but more likely she was eating baby carrots from my memory. And those are bleached and ground down, and all the minerals are pulled off with the skin. So that's not really very good. Apple adding a little bit of nutrition. Still not enough to overpower the lean cuisine she had at lunch. And then dinner, it all goes downhill here. She has quinoa, broccoli rabe, salmon, chicken, occasionally meatballs and sausage for her husband who likes a heavy Italian diet. So now we're looking at the only healing food I see in here is broccoli, but it was cooked in oil, so very little nutrition left. A lot of animal products. Quinoa, I'd give her a neutral on. There's nothing in this dinner that could possibly help her counteract all the inflammation from what she ate earlier in the day. And there's a lot more inflammation being added on with all of the animal protein and fats and the oils on top of that. And dessert, always dairy, usually ice cream or whipped cream, etc. More animal products, more inflammation all the way through to the end of the day. Water, about 64 ounces a day. Is that enough? It's not enough, not enough. So when you look at this, again, this is something that many Americans would consider to be a healthy diet. But when I looked at this, I went, I understand completely why you're sick. We need to turn this around. So what did we do? We put her on the hyper-nourishing anti-inflammatory diet. She started drinking at least a full blender a day of the nourishing green smoothies, the way I taught you to do in class 2, right? 75% greens. She put in a half a cup of chia or flax seeds in that a day, fruit to flavor it the rest of the way. She started drinking a gallon of water a day, as many raw vegetables and fruits as she wanted on top of that. And here's what happened. First of all, she was feeling so great, she texted me only a few days later saying she was skipping in the Home Depot parking lot. Now, this was a woman who could barely move beforehand. Her symptoms were so severe that she couldn't play catch with her kids. She used to run 5Ks. She could barely walk. She was in so much pain that even sitting at work, her knees and her ankles were so painful. This is on medication, by the way. This is a woman who was basically at a point where she was taking injections in her knees twice a week. She was taking all these pills, and yet her pain was still an 8 out of 10. So imagine that, or maybe you don't have to imagine. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're on tons of medication as well, and you're still having, the rheumatoid arthritis or the terrible aches and pains. She was also having Raynaud's, where everything would go cold, and she was in so much pain by the end of the day she could barely tolerate just enjoying her family. And yet, within a few days of changing her diet, skipping in the Home Depot parking lot. Let her tell her story.
Hi, my name is Dana Sardano. I'm a 45-year-old woman, and I have rheumatoid arthritis. I was diagnosed about 2 years ago. Very rapidly, my range of motion and my ability to do the things that I used to do declined. I was fatigued, uncomfortable, and just unhappy. I also have 2 little girls that are 6 and 7, and I went from running with them in a double jogging stroller to barely being able to sit on the floor and play with them. I was on a couple different pills, methotrexate, doing the shots, 1 in each leg every week, and just wasn't feeling any better. By happenstance, I found Dr. Goldner, and I did exactly what she told me to do. Not only did I start feeling better in the first week, but I was off all of my medications within 3 weeks. I can't believe it. It's awesome. It's 4 months now that I am following her program, and I feel awesome. I'm completely off the medications. I am working out in the yard every day, planting and digging and gardening and doing whatever. As you can see by my surrounding area, I'm an artist, and I'm on my feet a lot, and I don't know when to stop, and I'm able to have more stamina and to do more of what I need to do. So thanks to Dr. Goldner, I am a better mother, hopefully. I'm a hard-working person. I'm a better artist. I am a gardener, and I am back to being the person that I used to be. So thanks, Doc.
Thank you so much, Dana. I hope you loved that. Let's move on to the next one. The next case study is in lupus. So this is someone who went from a plant-based diet to the hypernourishing healing protocol. Now, some of you might be wondering about that. Hey, I'm already on a whole foods plant-based diet. I saw forks over knives. Why am I still hurting? Well, I hope watching class 2 and maybe class 1 as well helps you discover some of the things you might be doing wrong. Well, let's look at what happens in another person who is trying very hard to do the same. This is Kathy. Now, Kathy was 60 years old when I first met with her, and she was the director of a mental health clinic. She had had lupus for much of her life, and her rheumatologist put her on a whole foods plant-based diet. Isn't that wonderful? I know, I thought it was really, really wonderful. Here's what she was eating. Mostly rice, beans, potatoes, and cooked vegetables. Now, think about right now, what's good about that diet? What she eliminated, all right, so she eliminated the unhealthy foods. What is she missing? She's missing all of the healing foods. And so, not surprisingly, she still was planning an early retirement because of her symptoms. Her weight was 209.5 pounds. She only had a minimal change after she took away all these unhealthy foods, started the whole foods plant-based diet, just a minimal change in her symptoms. She still was planning to retire. She was still in an extraordinary amount of pain. This is a woman who had to actually use her hands to help herself get out of chairs because her legs were so painful and weak. She couldn't bend down to put on her own pants. She had to use a claw tool to pick up her pants, to maneuver them over to her because she couldn't squat down to actually put her own pants on. All right, so even changing her diet to the whole foods plant-based with rice and beans and potatoes and cooked vegetables, it wasn't enough to change things. Also, she was constantly exhausted. She only had to get to work at 9 a.m., and yet she was still so tired she could barely function, could barely walk around, and then she was falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night and was still exhausted in the morning. She also was unable to go up or down stairs for 2 whole years. And I want you to remember that number. 2 years she couldn't go up or down stairs. Now, this was a major problem for her because as the director of the clinic, she was supposed to be running a meeting that was on the 2nd floor, and it was up 2 flights. And she could not lead that meeting for 2 years. And that was another reason why she thought she should retire from this job that she loved so much. Well, before she retired, her doctor told her, listen, I want you to give a call to Dr. Goldner, go on her 4 weeks one-on-one protocol and see if there's a way she can help you get better so you don't have to retire. And she agreed to do that. Now, my 4 weeks one-on-one is a protocol where instead of me just, when you meet with me for a Skype session, I go over everything with you and I'll say, okay, from now on, I want you to eat this, do this, do this. And then you go and do that on your own. But for people who are very, very ill and are in so much pain, or they have organs that are just not going to make it, or they just need a lot of help focusing and keeping accountable, we'll do a program where for 4 weeks you have unlimited access to my cell phone number so I can help you every single day for 4 weeks. So that's what she decided to do. Now in the 4-week protocol, that's my strictest protocol where we only feed you the most anti-inflammatory, hyper-nourishing foods for the entire 4 weeks so your body can heal as rapidly as possible. Let me show you what that looks like. And you can see it says 4 weeks hyper-nourishing protocol for lupus recovery, results typical. Because, a lot of times you'll see online where someone will say, oh yeah, I got these great results. And then it'll say results not typical in the corner. Well, not here. Your body wants to heal. And when you feed bodies the right way, it's typical and normal and natural that they heal. So results typical. Let me show you what happened to Kathy. On day 4, you can see she wrote, great day, pain would be a 0.5 out of 10. Already a 0.5 out of 10. And it's only a few days in. I'm so excited I don't have more energy and don't hurt. Makes walking the dogs easier, cleaning the house, and walking around at work. Just doing normal stuff is now possible and easier for her. Day 6. Energy was good today. 2 flat tires today, so I had to complete the repairs. I was uncomfortable, but was able to tolerate the job. It's amazing the decrease in symptoms I noticed yesterday. Couldn't put our pants on a week ago. 2 tires and just a little uncomfortable 6 days in. Day 8, mild stiffness in the morning. It's gone by 11 a.m. Today is a good day. No discomfort in quads walking uphill. Exercising, pain-free. That's day 8. Think about this. On all the medications, still in pain, still exhausted. 8 days in, exercising, changing tires, feeling good. Day 10, my rheumatologist started tapering me off my steroids. I can walk around without feeling like I'm wearing cement shoes. I walked uphill today. I didn't even think about it. I was able to go on a short bike ride of about 2 miles. I haven't ridden a bike in over a year. That's day 10. Day 13, I get this message from her. I can walk up and down stairs. How long has it been since she could walk up and down stairs? 2 years. Day 13, she could walk up and down stairs again. And we're not even done yet. Keep going. Day 21, I can stay awake till 10:30 or 11 at night. Pleased with the weight loss also of 8 pounds, but not as much as I'm pleased with the increase in my energy. Energy's everything. Day 24, able to work 2 hours splitting wood. I was sore for about an hour afterwards. Not bad. Love Kathy. And day 28, down to 199.4 pounds. That's 9 pounds down. First time in her memory that she's under 200 pounds in her adult life. Now, that is what it looks like when somebody's working with me every day for 4 weeks, where every day I can interact, I can make sure you're doing everything optimally, keep you accountable, and then deal with anything that comes up to make sure that you're only getting better as the time goes on. Pretty awesome, right? So super, super happy for Kathy. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, what happens after the 4 weeks? Does she go back to rice and beans and end up disabled again? Well, let her tell you. I stay in touch with people. When you work with me, you become a part of my family, and I want to stay in touch and know how you're doing. So I emailed her, and this was a message she sent me about 7 months later. She wrote, still no joint pain. Yay! Folks from work and my Bible study group have asked me to share my green drink because they've noticed the weight loss and the health benefits. Staying as close as I can to plant-based living is better for me. Have I been totally vegan? No. I've had beef, venison, fish, or cheese probably 7 to 10 times since I started the lupus program. I could tell my body was unhappy with that choice, and I'm back to eating green. So she never got the joint pain back, didn't get the lupus back, but when you go from hyper-nourishment and super healthy eating to eating something inflammatory, you're not going to feel that good. You're going to have a stomach ache. It's kind of like Thanksgiving where you have the regret and the remorse, but you're not sick, right? So that's what happened to her. So she added back all the rice and beans and the cooked vegetables. She kept her smoothies, kept her omega-3s, kept her water high, and was able to keep her results. And here's what I love the most is when people send me pictures and let me know how they're doing. So here was Kathy when she started. You could see she's overweight. She's leaning in her chair. This is when she was at the point of needing to retire. And this was her shortly afterwards, celebrating the next birthday. You can see she had fruit instead of a cake, and you can see how much thinner she is and how her skin is glowing. And this is the one that makes me really happy. This is a picture that she sent to me of her and her partner. Now, her partner was going to take care of her when she retired early from being disabled, but because she got healthy again, they decided to get married. And this is them hiking the Grand Canyon together after they got married. And, you know, this is why I do this. I don't see the role of being a doctor about managing symptoms or managing medications. I think my job is to make sure that you live the best life possible, that nothing keeps you from doing the things that you love to do and being with the people that you love. And so when someone like Kathy goes from disabled and ready to retire and give up on her life to hiking the Grand Canyon with her new wife, that means everything to me. That's what I do this for, and that's what I want for you. Let's keep going. Here's another case study of lupus and Sjogren's, non-specific high raw plant-based diet to the hypernourishing healing protocol. So this is Danielle. She has lupus and Sjogren's, and she was 29 when I first met with her, and she had really, really severe symptoms of both illnesses. The Sjogren's disease, it's an autoimmune disease where it causes basically you dry out, you stop making tears, you stop making saliva, and it's really, really uncomfortable. She had severe dry eyes and mouth where she had to use drops all the time. She would wake up to have to drink water because her mouth was so dry. She had chronic arthritis, which both illnesses can cause the arthritis. She had chronic neuropathy in both of her arms and her hands. So when she just had to drive to work, she would feel the pins and needles go up and down her hands and her arms where she couldn't feel them anymore. She had severe photosensitivity where just walking from her car to the office, she lives in Florida where there's a lot of sun, just that walk could make her want to pass out, and she has passed out from that. She also had crippling fatigue. At 29 years old, she wanted to go out, she wanted to be with people, but she couldn't. She was crashing at home because she just didn't have the energy to function, to be social. You know, she couldn't exercise, but she couldn't even just do regular social things that other people could do. Now, she started researching and she started trying different things on her own, and she just wasn't able to dial it in. And the good news is the reason she got her start was because not a rheumatologist, but her neurologist told her that she should work with me so I could help her. So she started experimenting. She read Goodbye Lupus. She started trying to figure it out on her own. Couldn't quite get it dialed in. Was still symptomatic, although notice started to feel a little bit better. So I started working with her directly to make sure that she got it right. And the results were amazing. I'm actually going to let Danielle tell the story.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm 29 years old, and I was diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's. I was extremely sensitive to sunlight. I would consistently get sick with the butterfly rash, the tunnel vision. I developed a joint stiffness in my fingers, in my elbows, in my knees. I had pleurisy, very painful. All led me to the emergency room. I was napping and sleeping all the time. My mouth was so dry. I developed dry eyes. My arms would go numb. My fingers would tingle driving. So I ended up seeing a neurologist. He said he knew of a doctor that had lupus, and she doesn't have lupus anymore. She healed herself through her nutrition protocol, and I was all about it. I'm like, nutrition, I can do this, and just tell me what to do. So immediately I followed the protocol, and the time and patience that she put into teaching me these things is invaluable. If Dr. Goldner wasn't a part of the protocol, I wouldn't be engaged in it. Following in Dr. Goldner's footsteps was really important for me. The neuropathy went away within 2 weeks. I could sit at my desk and type without my fingers feeling like there's needles at the end of it. I could drive my car without my arms going numb. It was such a drastic change. The sun was a big one. I wore sunscreen. I wore UV protective clothing, sunglasses, hats, all the protective measures that you can take. This past weekend, went Christmas shoe shopping in the sun, and I wore a t-shirt, and I did great. My butterfly rash wasn't there. No tunnel vision, no spots, and I don't suffer from stiff joints at all anymore. I am not tired. I have a renewed sense of energy. Now I run miles. I enjoy working out. I lift weights. I have energy to do this. I honestly don't know where I would be if this neurologist didn't mention Dr. Goldner to me. I am back to my normal.
Awesome, isn't it? I love it. And Danielle actually got married. She looks so beautiful. She now has her own Instagram where she promotes raw vegan, high nourishment lifestyle for disease prevention. And I'm so proud of her. So many of the people I've worked with go on to become what I call health missionaries. I tell them, go out, heal the world, tell everybody, because I want everyone to know that this is possible and you don't have to be sick and you don't have to suffer. You can be out there living your life. So I'm really excited that she's out there doing it as well. Let's do another case study. This is lupus, Sjogren's, and scleroderma. This is someone who went from a highly processed American diet to hypernourishment. Okay, so I'm going to show you what he did. Now, he did hypernourishment while still keeping some inflammatory foods. So I want to show you what that looks like for the people who asked questions after the last one saying, what if I just eat little meat subtypes? Here's the case study that I wanted you to see. This is David. Now, David is an amazing guy. He is someone that holds a dear place in my heart because he's someone who was the first person that I ever did telemedicine with. So back in the day, I actually was one of the first telemedicine docs out there. And so I was out there giving a talk. And the talk was about how nourishment affects the brain and psychological diseases. And his mother is a therapist, so she came to this talk. She almost didn't show up, but she came because she needed the credits. And when I was talking about how I came to know about nutrition and how it affects diseases, I told my story of reversing lupus 13 years ago, which at the time was less years ago. And she came up to me afterwards. And I'll never forget her face. She looked me in the eye and she was crying and she said, I've been praying for someone to help my David and I believe you're the one who will help him. Will you help him? And I said, I'll do everything I can. So we met over Skype and he became my first telemedicine patient. And I got to know him and he's an amazing guy. I'll show you a picture. Here's what he looked like. So we have lupus and we have Sjogren's, which I already explained to you. And then there's scleroderma, which actually causes hardening of the skin and more rashes than even the lupus alone. So, and when he did get rashes, he couldn't heal them. And this is what he looked like at the time. Now, this is David on medication. This is the best medications could do for him. And when I met him, I asked him, what do you want for your life? And he said, I just want people to see me. I want to work. You know, when I try to apply for jobs, they won't look me in the eye and I never get the job. I never get called back. It's like they can't see past my condition and see what I'm able to do for them. And so while his mom worked as a therapist, he would sit home and he would get all of his meals from 7-Eleven because he had nothing else to do. So he was eating processed crap from 7-Eleven and drinks. And he said when he did make his own food, he put tons of butter all over everything. And he was very lonely and depressed. And you can see the depression in his eyes. I'm going to show you, here's his legs full of edema. Here's his hands. I know it's difficult to look at, but I want you to see how severe this is. So the scleroderma would make his hands so stiff that just bending his knuckles could make the skin split open. And then he would get infections all the way down to the bone, and the infections wouldn't heal because he didn't have the blood flow to be able to heal it because of the diseases he had. And right before he met me, his doctors told him that the only thing they could do was amputate his fingertips because there was no way possible to heal all of those openings and get his finger function back. He's in his 20s, and his mom had to button his shirts for him because he couldn't use his fingers. It was really a horrible situation for him, and that was the answer that they had for him was amputation. Now, when I met with him, he decided to do hypernourishment, but he didn't do the full protocol. So the full protocol is all 6 steps. You eliminate all inflammatory foods, and you hypernourish with the greens and the omega-3s and the water. And he wasn't ready yet to give up his meat, but he said he would meet me partway. He would give up all the dairy and the butter, and he decided to drink 90 ounces of green smoothie a day, made the way I taught you in class do. he was drinking over a gallon of water a day. And then once a week or so, he would have meat. And here's what happened. His skin cleared up. Within a couple days, he had dramatic improvements in his energy and mood. 6 months later, decreased pain in his joints when I checked in with him later. And he had gotten a job as a case manager helping poor youth in Los Angeles, California. At the time, he was considered in remission. He was still on medication, but much lower dosage and feeling much better. And even more amazing, he became an artist. Now, David lived this way for a couple of years where he was on low doses of medications, he was in remission, he looked good, he was able to function, and those same fingers they were going to amputate created artwork that has been featured all over Los Angeles, right? Amazing that he was able to get that back, and that means everything to me. Now, I stayed in touch with him and his family. His mother keeps a copy of Goodbye Lupus in her purse, along with David's before and after pictures. So if you ever meet Glenda, she will happily show you exactly what this is and how it works, because she's so dedicated as a health missionary to make sure everybody gets that for their lives and their kids as well. Well, stayed in touch with him, and when my husband and I were getting ready to do our Amazing Fitness and Health Conference, I contacted him, and I said, we're going to be in LA. Why don't you come with Glenda, with your mom, and we can see you and see how you're doing. So he attends the entire conference, and he relearns the 6 steps to healing with supermarket foods that you learned in classes 1 and 2. And this time he commits 100%. He went, Doc, I totally forgot that I wasn't doing the whole protocol. You know what? I'm going to stop eating the meat. I want to see what can happen for me if I go fully 100% plant-based with the hypernourishment. And I said, yes, let's go buy some tie-dye. You're going for it. So we did that. And here's what happened. 2 months later, I check in with him to see how he's doing. His skin went from clear to glowing. His joints are more flexible than ever. And I get this text from his mother. Guess what? David's rheumatologist is taking him off all of his medications. And I wrote back, wow, 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 DMC emoticon, because I text the way I talk. So this is what I want you to understand, is that if you add what you're missing, if you add the hypernourishment, then you are going to make dramatic changes in your health, because your body finally has the tools to start fighting all the inflammation. It'll fight some of the new inflammation you introduce with the foods you shouldn't still be eating, and it'll start repairing some of the old stuff. So I've had people who've had dramatic responses just by adding what they're missing. If you're in my husband's smoothie shred group, you've seen that, where people go, okay, I still haven't given up all the bad stuff, but by adding the smoothies, I've lost weight, I feel more energy, and all these other great benefits that are happening. When you eliminate all of the inflammatory foods, that's when the miracles happen. So he went from remission, eating mostly plant-based, hypernourishment with a little bit of meat, to completely healed without all of those, okay? So this is really, really important. I actually just ran recent labs on him just to keep checking. It has now been many years, and he is still completely symptom-free and feeling great. He has 0 markers for Sjogren's, 0 markers for scleroderma, and just a small amount of lupus antibody that seems to just stay behind, but not causing any symptoms. And that'll happen sometimes. Some of your antibodies have memory, but all the inflammation is negative and all the other markers are gone. And he's still off medication for all these years and living amazingly. He's had 2 promotions. He's got a wonderful girlfriend now, and he's living life at 100%. So when you want miracles like that to happen, you have to go all in. And so this is also something that can help some of you understand, when people go, oh, I've heard that someone went paleo and they went into remission. Yes. That can happen if they're not eating a lot of meat, because paleo tells people to give up processed foods and to give up dairy. So think about it this way. If it's someone who eats a lot of vegetables to begin with and doesn't really like meat that much, they could get fairly close to doing the protocol correctly, right? And anything you do in that direction is going to help you feel better. But you don't hear about people having complete cures. You don't hear about people who've reversed their ANA and are living completely medication-free with 0 symptoms at all, unless they've gone all in. And that's really, really important difference. But it's also great motivation for those of you who are ready to start hypernourishing but are not ready to give everything up yet. It'll push you in the right direction. Let me show you what David looks like. So if you look here, you can see what his hands used to look like. And that was on medication, and that was the best medications could do. He was still being prescribed an amputation for his fingertips. And then you can see in the other image, His hand's fully healed. This is him off of medication. Now, if you're wondering about the shape of his fingers, yes, they're a little bit misshapen because the bones had so many infections that the bones are no longer shaped the way they were before. But you can see he gets blood flow all the way to his fingertips. He has no pain in his hands, and he's able to use them fully for work and for art. That's off medications. Here's David before, and you can see the best medications could do for the lupus, scleroderma, and Sjogren's, what he looked like. And here's what David looked like after, off all medications, and zero symptoms from any of those illnesses because of hypernourishment. And look at his eyes, no more depression either. He's feeling great. And here he wanted you to see a picture of him wearing his work shirt, going off looking handsome for work. Here's what his artwork looks like. It's a three-dimensional, incredible artwork. And here he is at work. They call him the rabbit because of the way he eats. So for his birthday, they gave him carrots instead of cake. And I thought that was really great. So again, this is what I live for. Going from sitting home, depressed, his only outing of the day being 7-Eleven, to living, contributing, having purpose, and having love in his life. That's what this is all about. Let's move on to the next person. Some people ask me, what if I'm pregnant? Is it too late if I'm pregnant? Should I wait till after I have the baby? I get messages like this every day. Here's a case study of lupus and Sjogren's during pregnancy. And if you're wondering why a lot of people have both diseases, if you've had autoimmune disease long enough, you usually collect a lot of different diagnoses. And that's completely normal. So a lot of these travel together. This is someone who went from the standard American diet and Mediterranean diet. Actually, it was more of a Mediterranean diet, I must say. Her husband is Israeli, and so they ate a lot of Mediterranean-style foods, with a lot of olive oil in it, in addition to eating some of the standard American fare. And she went from that to 4 weeks of hypernourishment protocol. So she's someone who, she called me and said that, listen, I'm having a baby in 4 weeks. My C-section's already scheduled. And I went, oh. Well, you need to start 4 weeks now because we got to make sure you can have that baby. So here's what happened. So she was 32 weeks pregnant at the time that she met with me, and she actually went on maternity leave 8 weeks early because she was already feeling exhausted and in a lot of pain. She had excessive fatigue, was spending the day in bed, joint pain. She was catching colds easily, sleeping a lot. And it was really upsetting because she couldn't play with her older daughter when she got home. A lot of lower back pain, which she thought was due to the pregnancy. And, it was really, really scary for her because she's also had a lot of miscarriages. And when you have a miscarriage or you have a regular birth, when you have lupus, you're much more likely to aggravate the lupus. And whether she had a miscarriage or she gave birth, both times she ended up in the hospital with severe lupus flares. So she was terrified that this was going to lead to another flare, and she was going to have not only a newborn baby, but her older daughter to take care of as well. She was totally terrified. So she went right away into 4 weeks of hypernourishment with me, just like Kathy did, and I'm going to let her tell you exactly what happened.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am 34 years old, and I was diagnosed with lupus 3.5 years ago. I had symptoms of sun sensitivity. I couldn't be out in the sun for more than a few minutes, and my skin would feel like it was on fire. I would break out in the typical lupus butterfly rash on my face, sometimes within a few minutes from being outside, and it was just so incredibly painful. I started becoming so fatigued, I'd come home from work and just lay on the couch. I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be for my daughter. I had so much pain in my legs, I had to give up running, which was a passion of mine. My husband and I decided to try for another baby. I ended up with a miscarriage, and after that I had a major flare-up again, and I was getting the butterfly rashes, I was getting fevers, I always felt like I had the flu, and I was just very fatigued. And my legs always hurt, just always in pain. So my husband and I made that decision, okay, we're gonna try again. And when I was about 8 months pregnant, I started getting very scared that I was gonna have this baby and be even more sick after I had him. So when I was 8 months pregnant, I heard of this book called Goodbye Lupus. So I set up an appointment with Dr. Goldner. So I completely changed the way I was eating at 9 months pregnant. I was literally 4 weeks from my due date. I was so shocked. 2 days into doing this, I had so much energy and I felt amazing. 2 weeks into this, when I was pregnant, my Sjogren's symptoms went away. My aches and pains were gone, which at this point in my life, I thought it was from the pregnancy, but apparently not, because once I started doing her protocol, my pains went away, my back felt better, my legs felt better. And actually 1 week before my due date, I was running around a park teaching my almost 4-year-old how to fly a kite. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and I had a C-section, and I recovered so quickly. My baby is now 5 weeks old, and he is amazing, and I feel great, and I don't have the sun sensitivity anymore. I don't have any pains in my legs anymore. I am sitting out here in a park, and I couldn't feel better. I recently just had some blood work done a week ago, and a lot of this blood work markers they do to show for inflammation is negative. Even my Sjogren's lab work is showing negative. So I couldn't be more grateful for Dr. Goldner and for giving me my life back, making me the mom I want to be. My daughter comes home from school now, and I play with her. I don't sit on the couch, even with the lack of sleep I have with a newborn. I am running around, and I am enjoying my life. I'm truly, truly grateful for reading her book and for working with her and for continuing to work with her. I haven't felt this good in years. So thank you.
So this next case is another person who had both lupus and Sjogren's, and she had in a way that some of the major symptoms was mostly Sjogren's. It was affecting her, the dryness was one of the biggest things, and arthritis, but also severe memory issues and itching. And that's something that a lot of people have that's not talked about as much, is this feeling of kind of, this early dementia might be setting in. A lot of people have that issue, brain fog, fatigue, feeling like their memory isn't working anymore as part of the autoimmune spectrum. Let me introduce you to Emily. Now, Emily went from the standard American diet to the 4-week hypernourishment protocol. She was 46 years old and had lupus and Sjogren's, severe dry eyes and mouth, severe chronic itching. She told me she had spent over $5,000 just in going to specialists to help her with scalp itching, because it was driving her crazy how much her scalp was itching all the time. None of the creams or potions or shampoos they gave her ever worked. She had chronic arthritis that was severe. She was a professor, and it was taking her from being able to teach her classes in the normal way to having to sit down to teach her classes. Severe fatigue and memory loss as well. She said she thought she had early dementia. She also had chronic gut pain and digestive issues. She'd always had them, never really knew why she had them. I'm going to let Emily tell her story.
My name is Emily Horowitz. I am 46 years old. About a year and a half ago, I was first diagnosed with lupus and then Sjogren's syndrome. I had an itchy scalp. My skin was itchy. My feet were itchy. I thought I had carpal tunnel syndrome. My wrist hurt all the time. I wore braces. I couldn't even text. I was exhausted all the time. I had brain fog all the time. I started to think I had like early onset Alzheimer's. I would teach and my ankles would hurt so much that I started sitting down when I would lecture to a class. I was buying vitamins. I was doing everything and nothing was helping. Dr. Goldner's nutrition plan, I cannot emphasize how much it changed my life. Immediately, the itching stopped. I don't have to wear braces on my wrist. I can type. I apparently don't have carpal tunnel syndrome. I don't have any ankle pain. I don't have any knee pain. I had one doctor I consulted said that I had a labral tear in my hip, and one option was hip surgery. I don't have any pain in my hip. I can walk everywhere. I can play with my kids. I can remember things. I don't have to write everything down. I can type. I can text. I don't take any painkillers anymore. I've had stomach problems for years and years. They are completely gone. My stomach is perfect. I can stand up in front of my class. I have energy. It's transformed every aspect of my life and the way I feel. And I hope that everybody who's suffering from any kind of autoimmune or other disorder has the opportunity to try this. I mean, it will save lives.
Thank you, Emily. Now, the funniest thing about Emily is she did 4 weeks with me one-on-one, and after 2 weeks, she stopped messaging me. Now, your job when you're on the 4 weeks protocol is not only do you have access to me unlimited through my cell phone, but I expect you to check in with me every single day. I need to see everything you're eating, what's happening with you. I want to hear all your questions. I want to make sure you feel supported. She stopped answering my texts after 2 weeks. So finally, I called her and I said, Emily, what are you doing? Where are you? And she said, well, my symptoms are already gone, so I just didn't want to bother you anymore. So here she is after all these years of suffering. 2 weeks, the symptoms are gone. And so she just thought, I won't bother her anymore. I want to be bothered, but it was wonderful and amazing to see that. Let me show you another case that's near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of children that are coming to me now, anywhere from as young as 8 years old, a lot of 12 to 14-year-olds, and some 17-year-olds, all of whom have severe autoimmune disease, alopecia, lupus, and it's heartbreaking. These diseases are getting worse every generation, and we need to do what it takes to stop it now. So I'm going to share with you one of those cases of someone I'm working with. This is a case study of childhood lupus, standard American diet to hypernourishment protocol modified for the child. I was 11 years old when I met with her, and she was recently diagnosed with lupus, but it was very severe. She already had cardiomyopathy, which is an enlarged heart, and that was caused by the lupus. She had nephritis. It's very common for people with lupus to have it attack their kidneys, and her kidneys were failing. She had protein in her urine. And she started working with me in February of 2017. She also had a rash, the lupus rash. The lupus was also causing seizures, and she went into a code blue. That means that the doctors had to revive her because her heart stopped. You can only imagine what her parents have gone through. And so she came to me to see if I could help her daughter, and I said, I would love to help your daughter. And so we met over Skype so I could modify the program for the child intake. And so what we did was we just changed the amount. So for her, we started off at about 3/4 of a blender a day of the green smoothies. She did a lot of eating of the food. So even if she only had a half a blender, she ate tons of raw broccoli and cauliflower, in addition to fun fruits and things like that she enjoyed. And she had the water intake was modified to her weight. So we looked at her body weight and we made the ounces equal to her body weight and then raised it as she was able to do that. And let me show you what she looked like right before we met. It's heartbreaking. This is her in the hospital, hooked up to all the machines at 11 years old. As a mother, it hurts me to see the condition that our children are in. And, you know, she was on medication, but she was still very ill. So we started the program, and Mom kept in touch with me, sending me text messages. And here she is on her way to becoming lupus-free, eating her veggies with homemade guacamole. And here is a message I got only 2.5 weeks later. It says, hi, Dr. Goldner, just a quick update. She's gotten off 2 medicines since our chat a little over 2 weeks ago, and her labs are trending well. Her nephrologist said no longer suffers from proteinuria. That's 2.5 weeks later, no more protein in her urine, off 2 medications. And as I said, I continue to check in with people. She sent me an update. Update, we just had a cardiology appointment last week. Her heart is completely back to normal, no more fluid around her heart. For your information, she's been doing martial arts 3 times a week, 1 hour each since May. She really kicks butt. This is the same girl who suffered myocarditis less than a year ago. She's a member of the student council at her school. She plays the piano and the viola. She wants to be a nephrologist when she grows up. She's an honorable student, straight A's the entire year. Before, after. This is something, I mean, you could see how she's still back out again. She's glowing with health. And it's now been a few years and she's still doing well. She still feels really good. And, you know, it's hard for children. I mean, she fights the urges where she kind of wants to eat some of the foods her friends eat. And so, you know, that's part of the struggle as a parent, that you have to keep them focused. You know, kids, it's hard for them to understand their mortality even when they've been this sick, but it's worth it. And she's doing it. So when people ask, if my kids are sick, is this for them? Yes, it's for them. If your kids are healthy, is this for them? Yes, it's for them. There is nothing more important we can do than take the best care of our children's health. It's not convenient, it's not always fun, but it's the most important thing we can do. So take care of your health and then nourish your kids as well. Let's keep going. Here's a case study of chronic pain, HPV, and cervical dysplasia. So this is from a highly processed diet to a hypernourishment protocol. I'll introduce you to Sarah. Sarah's 29 years old, chronic pain for over 10 years, seeing 7 doctors, 9 medications for pain and inflammation, multiple joint surgeries, chronic bladder inflammation, still in constant pain with all of that intervention. She also had HPV with precancer of the cervix, and she had multiple surgeries to try to remove the precancer, but every single time it was still in the margins and she still had the illness. And her favorite foods at the time I met her was frozen packaged foods, chips, crackers, packaged ramen, cheese, and lunch meats, all processed, all animal products. She was overweight and in pain no matter what the doctors did for her. Got her on the hypernourishment plan, and I'm going to let Sarah tell you exactly what happened to her.
My name is Sarah Grover. I was suffering chronic pain for over 10 years. I was 203 pounds. I was under the care of 7 doctors, on 9 medications. I had multiple surgeries on joints, and I was struggling big time. I was so discouraged. Fast forward, with Dr. G's guidance, I have been pain-free. I have had 0 flare-ups. I have gone to 0 doctor's appointments, and I have not been on any pain medication. I am so thrilled. I'm 147 pounds, which is just a side effect of everything. I never did this to lose weight, but boy, is that a perk. To have these nutrients and to feel the energy after being so lethargic and so fatigued and so drained, I could not be more grateful. Thank you, Dr. G. I could not do this without you. You have given me the true gift of health. And I can't wait to continue this journey on healing. I can't wait to inspire others. You inspire me every day. You are Wonder Woman, and I am so grateful.
Now, Sarah did have a side effect. Sometimes people ask me, can anything go wrong? Is there any side effects? There are side effects. Side effects are optimal weight, glowing skin, and your immune system becomes so strong that after it heals whatever the other chronic inflammatory issues you have, it starts repairing other things. It makes you younger, but it also can fight off even old illnesses that we didn't even know was possible to fight off. Let me show you a text message video that she sent to me that she told me I could share with you guys.
I just got a call from my OBGYN to tell me that my PAP was normal. I haven't had a normal PAP since 2009. Not only do I not have any precancerous cells, my HPV came back negative, which means I'm no longer a high-risk patient because I don't have a chance of getting those precancer cells again. Thank you, doctor.
Isn't it amazing? Now, I could go on and on about this. I mean, it works for type 2 diabetes. This was somebody previously who in only 1 week dropped 100 points and lost 7 pounds. This is doing 4 weeks one-on-one with me. No more brain fog, high energy. 3 more weeks to go at the time that I put this. And here's somebody who was never eating fruit. She is eating fruit now. She just never had given up animal products before and done hypernourishment. I have somebody else I'm working with right now who had type 2 diabetes, newly diagnosed, and within a week his blood sugars are normal. His HbA1c is already normal. He's doing amazing. So hypernourishment is great for diabetes. Fruit didn't cause your problem. Remember that from class 1. It helps with chronic liver inflammation. Actually, the person I was just telling you about that I'm helping with diabetes right now has had chronic inflammatory liver problems for many, many years. Doctors have never figured out why. They just thought he had some kind of chronic liver disease. Well, liver enzymes are normal for the first time that he can ever remember. Lots of other people I see have chronic inflammatory liver disease, maybe related to their illness, maybe related to the medications, but as you can see, here's a person here, 3 weeks, chronic liver inflammation that she's had for years, totally gone, stayed gone. Multiple sclerosis. This was one person that I work with who I did a one-on-one session. So she contacted me and said, hey, 4 months later, I went from unable to move out of my bed. She said she could only close her eyelids and open them. That was the most she could move. Back to work as a police officer in 4 months. I had 2 people with MS do my rapid recovery group who had amazing progress. One person in 6 weeks said 80 to 90% of her symptoms were gone, and her best day, what her best day used to be, was now what her worst day was now. She was able to go back to work as a nurse. Another person who joined who was already doing plant-based wanted to take it to the next level. Her MRI scan that she did after doing the group showed one of the lesions wasn't there. Now, of course, the doctor who read it went, well, that shouldn't happen. Maybe it was artifact, but it's not unusual to me to know that people can get better and they can heal. So MS absolutely responds. It's great for weight loss. Here's someone who did 4 weeks one-on-one with me. Not only did her RA pain go away, but she got off of all her blood pressure medicines and lost 32 pounds. And she's lost more weight since then. I just don't have the newest updated sexy pictures of her. I hope that you're realizing that these are amazing transformations, right? I hope this is blowing your mind. I really do, because the reason I do these classes is I want you guys to see that there's hope and there's healing and that this is real, so that you take massive action for yourself. You know, this is everything to me. I teach as much as I can because I want to save people from the suffering that I know comes from being chronically ill. Everything I've ever been through has led up to this moment right here, to be able to do this kind of work. Because if you don't have this information, you lose everything. To be constantly in pain or exhausted, to not be able to get out there and experience love and excitement and happiness, to be afraid all the time, to be losing everything you have, whether it's your ability to work, whether it's your ability to have children. There's so much loss that comes with chronic illness. And so I fight like crazy to make sure everybody has access to this information, because I need people to know that you can be well, but you've got to make the changes. You've got to fight for your health. So that's why I work so hard to teach this information. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's just not enough. I wish it was. I wish information was all people needed. Like, eat this, not that, and they get better. That would be great. But it's just not the case. For a lot of people, it's so much more than that. I mean, food is emotional, first of all, right? I mean, food is an emotional thing. There's traditions and there's cravings and addictions and peer pressure and, come on, a little bit of cake at someone's birthday, right? And your mom's still making you your favorite meat or something and getting upset when you don't eat it. There's so much tied into food that it is very hard to do this on your own. In addition to that, there's other factors that get into people's way. There's stress and the relationships and how much sleep they get and lifestyle. And so I realized, even though I was teaching this information, a lot of people just weren't getting better. And that's why I retired from my career. I was a medical director at a nonprofit. I was teaching graduate classes in psychiatry on how to help people eliminate their negative beliefs and traumas to get back to finding their happiness. I love the work I did with the homeless. But I knew that I needed to put more time and energy, really all of my time and energy, into helping people heal from chronic disease, because this is what I know. This is what I was born to do. I mean, when I was sick, man, I used to get mad at people who would say everything happens for a reason. I don't know if you're like me, but I'd be like, you know what, show off about that. I'm a good kid. There's no reason why I should be suffering like this, right? But now everything makes sense to me, because I'm able to help people in a way that I never would have been able to had I not been sick. I'd be another doctor that was nice and stoic and professional and trying to just be smart, rather than someone who's emotional and committed, because I know what it's like to be chronically ill. I was chronically ill for 12 years of my life. I mean, going to medical school almost killed me. But man, the fact that I did it and I overcame, that's why I'm able to deliver this on such a huge level. It's why I'm able to help people get their lives back when everyone else has told them it was hopeless. So I know what it takes to get people to healthy, and for a lot of people, the information is just not enough. So that's why I committed myself to just working on reversing disease for my job. And so one of the big things I do is I teach, and that's why you're here, right? I teach like crazy. And the other thing I do is I see people from all over the world to help them actually do this. So a lot of times when people see me for appointments, so if you go to goodbyelupus.com, you can make an appointment and I'll see you over Skype or Zoom or phone call or FaceTime, and I'll give you a personalized plan. And what I see is a lot of people make the appointment. They'll say, I read your book, I went to your classes, and I'm doing it right, but it's not helping me. And every time they're not doing it completely right. Every time. So I know that the information isn't necessarily enough, because not everybody understands it in the way that they should. And again, and the other times it's stuff got in the way. I wasn't taking care of myself the way I should. I cheated, which there's no cheating. There's only hurting yourself, right? So I do see people for appointments, and sometimes people just needed to understand better and they can go do it. But for so many other people, it's far too emotional and difficult. And so I knew that I had to work with people more. I needed to help people every day. Now, other physicians think that's absolutely insane. But to me, what matters most is you actually get better. I don't want to just see you for an appointment and then you just keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back and you never get better. That's crap to me. I want to see every single person get better, like all the people you've seen so far. I want to see people get their lives back the way I have and all those other people have. And all the people I'm about to show you, I have so many more people to show you. And it's really important to me to see them get better. And unfortunately, when I ask people who failed at doing it on their own, how long did it take? Almost every time it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and then they just got overwhelmed. Not enough support, too many cravings, and they'd give up. So that's why I started something called my 4-week rapid recovery program. So my rapid recovery program, I do exactly that. I am with you every single day for 4 weeks to make sure you get better. So how does it work? Well, you get unlimited access to my cell phone every day for 4 weeks. So first we meet. I meet you over Skype or FaceTime, whatever, and we create your program, the program that's going to work with you, with your food sensitivities and what you like to do and your lifestyle. Then every day you update me on how it went. You have a 1-page journal and it shows me how much did you sleep? What's your stress like? What did you eat? What did you eat that you should have or shouldn't have? How did it go? What's going well in your life? What are you struggling with? And every single day I give you feedback on how to do better the next day, right? And then on top of that, anytime you need something, you can reach out to me by phone. So you can literally text me, there's a cookie staring at me, I don't know what to do, and I will be there for you and I will help you overcome that cookie. All right? I've helped people with their marriages. I had someone who was doing 4 weeks of rapid recovery with me for lupus. Man, she had a rash that would not go away. She was pregnant and had a rash. She took every medicine and it didn't go away. 4 months they tried to get rid of it and they couldn't. In 1 week, her rash was gone on rapid recovery. So works fast, right? But then she got in a fight with her husband and she ate junk. So I helped her with her marriage. I'm a relationship expert. My husband and I have shared stages and taught people about that. So I helped her communicate with her husband and change her habits so that whenever she's in a bad mood or gets hurt by someone else, she doesn't hurt herself as well. I've helped people overcome their childhood traumas and the negative thoughts that cause them to sabotage themselves. When you're working with me every day for 4 weeks, I do whatever it takes to make sure you do it and you get better. Whether it's the emotional work, whether it's helping you structure your sleep schedule, whether it's optimizing your nutrition, I'm up your butt and over your shoulder every day for 4 weeks to make sure you get better. And that's why you see the results you do, right? I mean, when you look at Kathy and Rachel and all these different people, it's incredible how much better they got in 4 weeks because I was there helping them every day to make sure that nothing stopped them from getting it right. So that program's incredible. I mean, when you join that program, you get my green smoothie book, you get my pre-release of my healing meals recipe book that's coming out, and then you get all the different parts of the protocol. We check in as often as you need to live to make sure that you're getting better and you're getting what you need to. And again, unlimited access to my cell phone. So that program, it works. And you see that it works. It's incredible. But there's 2 problems that have come with it. Not with the program. The program works great. But the 2 problems that have come up is 1, I can only have 2 people in that program a month because I have a medical practice and a nutrition healing practice. I have a family. Right? And there's no break in that program. It's every day for 4 weeks, including weekends, including evenings. So it's nonstop. And so if I have more than 2 people in it, it just will overwhelm me, especially with my group as well. So I have to limit that. So for example, right now, at the time I'm talking to you, I have 1 spot open for that because someone just finished. But I often will have people waiting. And every person who's waiting has an urgent illness that they need to heal from. So that really hurt my heart because I don't want people to have to wait for that kind of help. The other issue some people have is cost. Now, I do that program for a very, very low cost, especially for the help of a doctor. So most of my physician colleagues have told me they would charge minimum $30,000 to $50,000 to give a patient their cell phone to see them every day. Now, this is not medical work I'll be doing with you. This is going to be a lifestyle nutrition change. But to give somebody their cell phone number, to contact them anytime for that amount of time, they wouldn't do it for less than that. And, you know, for our level of education, there's a high cost per time, right? So there was someone who came to me who said that they went to a lupus specialist rheumatologist who wasn't covered by her insurance, and she paid $4,000 for a 15-minute appointment where she got a lab order and a prescription, and she still had lupus. 15 minutes. She said probably it was more like 10. and she left the office with her disease. So that's not the way I work, right? That's another person who she has TMJ, and she told me she just paid $19,000 to go to a dentist who specializes in TMJ. $19,000. And she goes in for like 10-minute tune-ups a couple times a month. I hope it works for her. But it costs a lot to get healthcare professionals to spend any time with you. I don't believe in that. I don't want it to be that it's unreachable for people to get their health back. So the cost for 4 weeks of unlimited help every day from me is just under $5,000. So for folks who can afford that, they think it's a dream gift because it costs less than their copays for the year of their hospital visits and their medications. And they actually get their health back at the end of the 4 weeks. I mean, to actually get better, there's nothing better than that. So it's extremely inexpensive for the amount of time and attention and the result that you get, which is your health. But I also know for some folks, it's out of reach. Maybe you're disabled and you don't have credit. And for some folks, it's still too much. So that really hit me hard too, because I want every single one of you to have the result that you've been watching. And so that is where my 6-week rapid recovery group came from. My husband and I were talking, and I was crying to him about, man, I need to be able to help more people. I need to be able to do it cheaper. I don't know what I can do. And we put our heads together and we came up with a 6-week rapid recovery group. So the rapid recovery group I can do for almost half the price. And you get 6 weeks, because I didn't want anyone to get left behind. I was afraid, like, if it's a group, maybe I need more time. Turns out I don't, but I kept it at 6 weeks anyway. So you get 6 weeks of help every day, but we do it together in a group. So we limit it to 30. My husband does it with me. He's the original creator of the protocol. He also is an incredible help in terms of not just his understanding of cellular biology, which is better than any physician I've ever met. I mean, he's really brilliant. But he also, this weekend, he's sharing the stage with Tony Robbins, and he teaches people the success mindset because he knows that the biggest part of people succeeding in their lives comes from here. Now, that's usually for business, but it works for health too. So he's really great also at helping people pinpoint how their thoughts and their behaviors are holding them back from their health. So we do it together, and it's an act of love for the two of us. We love taking care of people. For him, being able to give people back their lives, he relives the joy of getting his wife back. And for me, I relive every time the joy of getting my life back. So we absolutely love to do it, and it's the same layout as the 4-week program. But instead of texting me all day long and me getting on the phone with you, we do it in a group format. Now, we only have 30 people at a time. It's 6 weeks, but every time it still sells out. In fact, right now, I don't even know if there's spot left in my rapid recovery group. If you want to check it out, you can go to goodbyelupus.com, click on group healing. You'll be able to see everything about it and if there's spots left. But, you know, this is for the people who are ready to get better now. If that's not you, then we're just going to do another case in a second. But I'm just going to let you know for those of you who are really ready. If you're just here to learn and be inspired and you're not ready to take action yet, then you don't want to look into the group. The group is only for people who are really ready to do whatever it takes. It's not a philosophical group. Don't join the group because you want to ask, about, like why this and why that and argue with me. That doesn't work. The group is about me telling you every day what to do, what actions to take so that tomorrow you're healthier than the day before. You join it because you're ready to take action, okay? So it's really important to me. I don't want anyone joining the group who's not ready, because sometimes people buy the group and then they don't participate. I don't want that. I don't want anyone wasting their money. I don't want anyone, no. Join the group because either one, you just are ready to get better and you don't want to waste time. 2, your kidneys are failing, or it's in your heart, or it's giving you seizures or other things where you're severely disabled and you need to get better and you need guidance so that you don't mess it up trying to do it on your own. That's really important. If you're dying right now or you feel like you are, you don't want to take the time to make mistakes on your own, right? It's one thing if you're not really symptomatic and you can, tinker around with what you learn. That's another reason. Another reason is if you've gone to these classes, this is like your 6th time coming to this class and you still haven't gotten better yet, you might need the help to get better, right? So it's really for those who are you're ready to do whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter the illness. We've had people come in with every type of autoimmune disease or just inflammation or pain that hasn't been diagnosed yet, type 2 diabetes, severe obesity, heart disease. We just had somebody who had a heart transplant because of sarcoidosis, And it reversed his kidney failure that they told him wasn't going to be reversible, and he's feeling like he got his life back. I mean, really, it's for any chronic inflammatory illness, but you have to be ready to do the work. And if you are, we will take care of you. I am passionate. I hope you guys see that. I am so passionate. So if you show up and you're ready, I will give you everything I have to make sure you win. I will talk to you about whatever it takes. So you still get your plan personalized even in the group. You send me all of your information and your reports. I personalize your plan for you. You get personalized feedback every single day. You can ask us unlimited questions every single day. We will answer all of your questions. And then we have live group meetings. Instead of you getting live phone calls from me, we get live group meetings. And the results are spectacular. So if that's something that you really want to do and you want to get better, I think this is the culmination of my life. This is my life's work. This group is, I believe, hands down the best thing I've ever created. It is a beautiful experience where people heal, and they heal as a family. And it's the best thing I've ever done. And it gives me so much joy to help people get their health back. And to see it as a big group and have all these people graduate, it's incredible. So for those of you who are interested, I want you to check that out. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you actual people who have been graduates of our group. We have so many of them now. I actually have tons and tons of videos that I haven't even edited yet, that I haven't been able to add yet. But these are some really, really amazing stories. And I hope you start seeing yourself in these stories so that you know what's possible for you. Let me go ahead and introduce you to the first person that, again, not only did I change her life, but she changed mine as well. This is Mary, and she had lupus nephritis, and she had lupus since she was 15, stage 5 nephritis, only 14% kidney function left. She was on the kidney transplant list when I met her. She said her doctor told her, nothing can help you. You are getting a new kidney. Nothing's going to work. Nutrition's not going to work. So you might as well let it go. And she said, well, if nothing can work, I've got nothing to lose. And she decided to do it anyway. She had super swollen, painful joints, exhausted sleeping all day long. Even though she's in her 20s, she could not get out of bed. She did have a wonderful fiance who wanted to marry her, even though she was sick, just like I did. And she said she wants to live my story. So she jumped into my very first rapid recovery group, and I'm going to let her tell the story of what happened.
Hey everyone, my name is Mary and I'm from Richmond, BC. I was diagnosed with lupus nephritis when I was 15. I just remember being sick all the time, missing a lot of schoolwork. I was achy, it was painful, I had slight fever every day. I missed a lot of class. By January of 2017, my kidney functions went down to 14%, and by then I already did all the paperwork for the kidney transplant because my doctor told me, it's going to happen soon. And that I'll be needing dialysis really soon. In February of 2017, Tony and I, we were listening to Dr. G's webinar, and she was talking about starting the first group healing program. And to the point where Tony and I were like, okay, what do we have to lose? After a week, I did the blood work, and it went up to 17% the first week alone. After that, every week, my kidney functions just has continued to increase, either 1, 2, or 3%. My last blood work, I'm at 27%. I'm no longer at stage 5 chronic kidney failure, so that is amazing. I no longer have to take any hypertension medication. My blood pressure were so low that my doctor said, stop all your medication. I was actually on 2 different hypertension medications at that time. They decreased my Plaquenil to 3 times a week, and the other medications I'm taking are just a bunch of vitamins, and those all thanks to the healing program because it really works. So it's been about 6 months since I started the healing program. I have so much energy. I can run around and keep up with my 4.5-year-old nephew, and he is full of energy. Because of the healing program, I'm able to become the aunt that I want to be and that he deserves. Before, I would teach my dog how to nap because I'm so tired, and the 3 of us would just nap all day. But now, we've been going on for long walks every day after work. One thing I'm looking forward to is growing old with my husband and traveling and just spending time with each other. So thank you, Dr. G, because without you, I would not be enjoying my life now. Thank you.
And by the way, I actually just saw Mary in person for the first time because she did my group. And so, of course, I only knew her through interacting with her online. And she showed up at an event I was just teaching in Costa Mesa with my husband. And we got to share lots of hugs. And she had a beautiful wedding. And I'm just excited to see her still doing well, not needing a transplant. And she knows what to do to take care of herself. Another interesting thing, though, that I've learned since helping her, ever since Mary, there's been a lot of other people with almost no kidney function who've been coming to me for help. And what I've seen is while the Rapid Recovery Program will get the kidneys working optimally, those folks seem to need to stay raw. When they add cooked foods, like Mary, if she adds cooked foods, even though they're plant-based, her kidney function comes down a little bit. So what I've seen is that when it comes to kidneys that are this poor, you need to maintain it. Because understand, I spoke about it in the last class, with kidneys, they get sclerotic if they've been sick long enough. So sclerotic means scarred. So the scar tissue doesn't work like a kidney anymore, it's dead. So for her, she was down to 14% kidney function with the scars plus the inflamed kidney. When we got rid of all the inflammation, she was able to go back to 27%, which she can have forever. You can live with 27% kidney function forever and be able to do everything like she can. She has energy, she can run around, she can have fun, she can work, right? She can exercise. But if she goes back to eating any kind of processed foods or cooked foods, it comes down. So I think with that level, I can't explain the whys yet. It's just what I'm observing in people with end-stage kidney failure. They need to keep up the nourishment. For people like me who went from stage 4 to normal, you could add back cooked foods and it seems to be neutral. But it's something to be aware of is that, and so what, right? So she has to eat raw foods and she can have a full, vibrant, amazing life. That's great. Nowadays, it's pretty cool. It's easy to do it. It's hip even to continue eating that way. It's about having the life that you want. I have someone who just went into my last group who came in with 6% kidney function, 6, and also ready for transplant. And I went, oh my God. Wow, people are really pushing me and challenging me. Well, she didn't check in every day like she was supposed to. So I wasn't able to push her as hard as I was able to push Mary because Mary checked in with me every day. And if you check in with me every day, I'll go, great, you did great today. Let's increase this, let's do this. She was checking in maybe once or twice a week, so I didn't have the ability to push her the way I wanted to. So I was worried that her results wouldn't be as great because I wasn't in control. I wasn't able to help her as much as I wanted to. But the one way you can mess it up is by not letting me help you, right? But in spite of that, she doubled her kidney function in the 6 weeks. So she said she's gonna stick with it now and see where she can take it to the next level. But it's really amazing for people whose kidneys are failing. I don't know anything else that works this way. I was just sharing some of my results with the head of cardiology from a place in New York, and he said this is Nobel Prize worthy. But unfortunately, people don't get prizes for nutrition treatments. They get prizes for medication invention. I don't need a prize. I need you to get better. So I hope that inspires those of you that have nephritis. All right, let me meet Scotty. And Scotty has been promising for over a year now to make a video, and she hasn't yet, but she usually comes to this class. So Scotty, hey, still waiting, love you. And I always pressure her for those of you who've been to other classes. She had severe lupus and Sjogren's for only a year, but it was very severe. And she had pleurisy, which was causing constant pain. And the pain was so severe, she'd end up in the ICU because it was so hard to breathe. Pleurisy is extremely painful. Every breath hurts. Right before she started the group program, she came right from the ICU into the group. And she was in so much pain from the lupus and the pleurisy, she had to quit law school, which was her dream. Within 20 days of joining the group, from the ICU, within 20 days, her CRP and ESR, which are measurements of inflammation, were normal. Her hemoglobin was normal. Her complement C3 was normal. And her rheumatologist started tapering her medicine, only 20 days in. 6 weeks after the group ended, she was back to work and feeling really great. She started exercising again, and she reapplied and got back into law school. Now, she decided to do a second round. Now, it's always amazing to me when people want to do a second round, because if it was really awful, they wouldn't want to do it again, right? But a lot of people choose to stay a second round because the results have been so amazing and they want to keep it going. Some of them are afraid to leave me. If it's just fear, I kind of push them on. But others are just at that point where they just started healing and they just want to keep it going. They want to keep the support. So she decided to do a second round. And By the end of the second round, she was running every day. Now she posts in our smoothie group all the time. She has an Instagram page all about being vegan and healthy. She now works out about 2 hours a day, and she's in law school, and she's off all of her medications. This is what's possible when you hypernourish. I'm so proud of Scotty, and I can't wait to one day see the video that she makes. Here's another one. This is Karen. Karen has Sjogren's disease, just primary Sjogren's disease. She was 65 years old, and she also had antiphospholipid antibody. So that's the antibody that causes blood clots. That's one that I had myself that led to me having the mini strokes. It's very serious. She had severely dry eyes and mouth, severely dry, burning, itching scalp, just like Emily. And she had something called burned tongue syndrome. A lot of people with Sjogren's had this feeling where their tongue feels burned all the time. It's torture, and nothing was able to help that as well. Let Karen tell you the story. Now, what's really interesting is that Karen's doctor, she was really excited about this program. He was aware of my work, and he was really thrilled she was doing this. So they did a ton of blood work before she started, and then all the blood work again after only 6 weeks, just to test to see what happens in terms of labs and all the different markers in the blood after you hypernourish for 6 weeks. Take it away, Karen.
My name's Karen O'Brien, and I was diagnosed a year and a half ago with Sjogren's syndrome, primary Sjogren's syndrome, and I also had a diagnosis of antiphospholipid syndrome. I had the classic Sjogren's syndromes of dry eye, dry mouth, but I also had burning, itching feeling on my scalp that never went away. I had burned tongue syndrome 24/7, and I also had some neuropathy beginning in my toes. And so when I found Dr. G, I was ecstatic. Sometimes between the 2nd week and the 6th week of the healing program, the itching, burning feeling on my scalp, gone. The burned tongue syndrome, one day I realized my tongue felt normal. The numbness in my toes resolved, all gone, and they've stayed resolved. I have no problems during the day. Plenty of saliva, plenty of tears. As far as the blood work, what we found at the end of that 6 weeks was that the inflammation markers in my blood were back to normal. White blood counts and red blood counts, completely normal. The Sjogren's antibodies are still there, but it's at a low manageable level. The nutrient levels are fantastic, and my liver and my kidney functions are all normal. My heart is fine. There are no blockages. The antiphospholipid syndrome has resolved. It's not there in my blood now. What can I say? This program works. I have been given a very powerful tool in hypernutrition to take care of myself for the rest of my life. So I have to say to Dr. G, thank you so much. You have made such an impact and difference in my life. I recommend it to everyone. Thank you.
Awesome, isn't it? Now, Arthi is someone with hypothyroid. A lot of people come in with Hashimoto's. It's one of the most common autoimmune diseases that's out there. One of the problems in Western medicine is that with Hashimoto's, all that doctors do is give you back your thyroid hormone after the autoimmune disease kills your thyroid, but they do nothing to get rid of the autoimmune disease. So the process continues. And that is why people with autoimmune disease often, that cause Hashimoto's, often continue to have super low energy and sluggish metabolisms and feel awful and achy, even though they're taking thyroid replacement because they never got rid of the autoimmune disease. Well, Arthi joined one of my groups, and she started out, her pain was a 3 out of 10, her energy was low to low average, and her mood was only a 5 out of 10. A lot of people with Hashimoto's battle depression. 6 weeks later, pain was 0, energy was high, mood was 10 out of 10, down 5.5 pounds. So she loved this program. She was showing us pictures of herself, and her skin was glowing and feeling great. And she wrote, I'm so proud of my skin health. I do push-ups like a pro, and my strength while exercising is phenomenal given how saggy I would feel before. My blouse fit me from 8 years ago. She has gone on to be a health missionary. So like I said, a lot of people graduate my programs and they can't stop talking about it. If anyone mentions hypothyroid anywhere on the internet, I think she gets an alert and she immediately posts things like this. This is something she posts. Dr. Goldner's starting another group and you should join that group. I just finished group healing and it was nothing short of miraculous. So she's a huge health missionary. If you've got hypothyroid, know that you need to hypernourish yourself to get your body healthy again. It's going to help you. Now, people ask, can I get off thyroid medicine? It depends if you have any thyroid left. So just like kidneys can get sclerotic and the scarred tissue is dead, it can happen to the thyroid too. So if your thyroid's inflamed, then getting the inflammation down with this program should help you get function back. But if your thyroid's already dead, this will get rid of all the other symptoms that the autoimmune disease is causing. And then you just continue to replace the thyroid hormone. At least it's just the hormone that you've lost that you're replacing, and not a more severe, complicated medication like prednisone and Celsep and Plaquenil and all these other medications people take for autoimmune. People also ask about, oh my God, cruciferous vegetables. You need cruciferous vegetables even if you have hypothyroid. You just have to make sure you also have iodine. So make sure that you eat some seaweed, or if you want to, you can take an iodine supplement, but you absolutely need to eat these foods as well. Let me show you another person that I absolutely love. This is from my one of my most recent groups. This is Dawn. Dawn has rheumatoid arthritis for many, many years, to the point that she has joint deformities. You get something called ulnar deviation if you've had rheumatoid arthritis for a long period of time, where all of your fingers start to bend this way. They bend towards the pinky side, and the joint actually disfigures and gets stuck that way. And it's painful. It's painful. All the muscles are pulled that way, and they lose the function of their fingers. So she had this pretty severely. Severe fatigue, severe pain, and limited mobility in her arms and shoulders and legs. She suffered so much. And the thing about Dawn that I love is that she believed in her heart there was a path to healing besides medication. The medications made her feel terrible. She was still stuck in bed. And she actually used to blog about her illness because she was hoping one day she would heal and be able to use those to show where she came from. But it was also her form of therapy for herself. And she started trying all different kinds of nutrition plans, and she tried them all. She tried everything she could Google, and nothing worked until she started trying to hypernourish on her own. She found my book, she found my protocol, and for the first time in her life, she started to feel better. So she joined my 6-week rapid recovery group, and she's done amazing. She's still doing amazing. As I said, my husband is also a participant in this group, and not only did he create this protocol, and he's brilliant in understanding cellular biology and metabolism in a way that nobody else does. He actually has a new book out called Miracle Metabolism, where he helps you understand how you create metabolism and fast metabolism at a cellular level. Brilliant. And he also has a background in personal training, and he has so many different certifications, like more than a dozen certifications in different kinds of physical therapy techniques. And so while she was working with me, she also worked with him on the physical therapy to strengthen her hands. You gotta see what happened. She's even better now than when she made this video just a few weeks ago, but we're gonna go with the video she has. Take it away, Dawn.
Hey, this is Dawn from Savannah. I just finished the Rapid Healing group. I had been really sick, and I had joint pain, neuropathy, edema, connective tissues, ringing in the ears, hair loss, stuck in bed most of the time, chronic fatigue. To get out of the bed, it would probably take me about 3 minutes, and then another 5 that if I wanted to go from here to just where that door is, it probably would have taken me like 5 minutes to shuffle there, and it would have been excruciating. I had just excruciating pain that would happen in the shoulders. It's like an ice pick through here, and maybe my arms would move like this. So I can do this way, over my head. I can brush my hair, brush my teeth, feed myself. I would try to go to dinner with somebody. I need to order something that I don't have to cut, because I can't actually hold my silverware and cut food. I can barely hold it to get it to my mouth. I can feed myself now. One of my party tricks is the fact that you see that with my hand, my fingers go that way. But if I focus, I can now move them back to the left. I can clap now. Can you imagine? I couldn't imagine this before. Drumming my hands on the table. I can open my water. I was laid up in the bed, could hardly have a sheet on me, hurt to move, had to keep my legs propped up. I can easily get out of my chair and move it, and I just want to show you, I can walk about the room, change directions, do things, no problem. Shower is a tub shower, so trying to get in the shower to pick up my leg was almost impossible. And I just want to show you now, I can actually do high knees, let alone just normal stepping. That mobility just got better and better and better. When you do the protocol, if you really commit to it, that's all in. That is for real. And you go hyper nourishing all the way. And that's when a lot of these other things that I couldn't really do before really started getting better. Like that I could really put a ponytail in my hair or just function. When you're that sick, it it's sad. Like your expectations aren't like, I want to climb Kilimanjaro. You're like, I just want to get up and get dressed and not be in the bed. And now I can. So I don't want you to think that I just kind of felt a little bad when I started. It was the first time in my entire life that I had ever done any kind of a protocol and had success. I've been busting my tail and working and trying to like do these other protocols, and I'm getting sicker and sicker. And I don't understand. I don't understand why nobody can tell me what's wrong with me. Why can't anybody help me? Dr. G is amazing. She is totally there for you. If you do this 6-week group, and just a small aside, if you are concerned about her ability to work with you through the dynamic of a Facebook group, because I actually was a little worried about it, I thought, how can she really, it's going to be chaotic, and how's it going to work? It is, she has her health to a science, and she has her Facebook to a science. It's amazing. It is so well organized. The other thing that happened, though, probably on week 2, is I had walked down the stairs and didn't even realize that I didn't shuffle down the stairs. I walked down them. I had to go back up and do it again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Doing the group, she will give you tremendous support. She is a genius. She comes from the greatest place of love, and she has got to be the most organized person I've ever known, because to be able to manage all that so beautifully, well done, Dr. G. Well done. I applaud you. So, and I love you tons and tons.
Is that cool or what? She's amazing. She's still going strong. She actually can do even more. Last time I saw her just 2 days ago, she could hold her hands up straight. Her fingers were straight. I'm so excited for her. I can't wait to see what she keeps doing. And I hope you're seeing what's possible for you. By the way, guys, remember, if you actually want to do the group experience she did, there are very few spots left. If that's something you want to do, make sure that you go to goodbyelupus.com and check out the group healing. All right, let's check in on the next one. This is Angela, diagnosed with lupus in 2004. And she actually progressed to something called CREST syndrome, scleroderma, systemic sclerosis, calcinosis, Raynaud's, sclerodactyly, telangiectasias, very bad Sjogren's, and something called Barrett's esophagus. She really was suffering so much. She also had Hashimoto's and arthritis and fibromyalgia, and she wrote, and a few things I can't even think of. She was one of those people that just everything was breaking down. And she really, really hated what happened to her skin. You can see her skin is red and actually is very inflexible. She hated the way she looked. She was just really depressed by all of the different things going on with her. And Angela really struggled at first in the group. This is one of the most beautiful things about the group, is that it's okay if you struggle. Nobody judges you. Nobody comes down on you. As long as you keep posting and letting me help you and letting everyone else support you, you will keep going. She had amazing results where only day 16, she got her saliva back. Her and another lady I'm going to show you later, Joyce, both got their saliva back after only 16 days. After decades of no saliva, one of them with a couple decades, her for a long time, suddenly day 16, they're both making saliva again. And Angela said she was drooling because she wasn't used to water in her mouth. Now, it's really good because, you get really bad oral health if you don't have saliva, and it breaks down your gums and your teeth. So that was really exciting. So she was doing amazing. And then something happened where she started to get depressed. And she went downhill and she started eating candy bars and stuff like that. But she still posted. And we all went in there and gave her love. And I helped her, and I helped her process what happened. What are you thinking? What is it that's causing you to give up right now, even though you're getting better? What's bad about getting better? What are you afraid of? Because sometimes people are terrified that if they get better, they're going to be expected to go back to living their life the way they used to, and then they're going to get sick again from all the stress. I helped her face her fears and get back on it. And she got back on it, and she completed the program, and she did great. And she gave me permission to share that with you, because she wants you to know that even if you struggle, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to keep going. So I'm going to let her tell her story. And by the way, you got to look at her, right? She looks like she had a facelift, and all she did was hypernourish for 6 weeks. This is a video she made right when she finished the program.
Hi, my name is Angela. I started this program 6 weeks ago with Dr. Goldner. I had pain, inflammation. I couldn't go out in the sun. I had GERD really bad, the edema in my ankles, Sjogren's, Hashimoto's, CREST syndrome, Raynaud's, scleroderma. I have been disabled since 2010, unable to work. I was just lethargic. My hair was falling out. The flares were just unbearable. The pain was unbearable. I didn't want to live. But I started the 6-week rapid recovery group. This program has, literally changed my life. It's the best thing, single best thing I've ever done in my entire life. Dr. G has so much knowledge that you can't go wrong. And being in the group environment, if I didn't go through it with the group, I would have never made the 6 weeks. They're always there for you. 24/7, you could get to talk to somebody just to say, hey, I'm struggling, or hey, guess what I did today? She goes through your journals every day and she talks to you about certain things. If you increase this will happen. And I noticed energy the second or third day. I could just feel like a jumping bean inside. I wanted to do things. It was so fast. The swelling was gone within a week, and within 2 weeks, I started getting saliva again. My eyes are better. Look, you can see I have even moisture in my eyes, and that's so unusual. My hair stopped falling out from hypothyroidism, and I have Barrett's esophagus, and I don't have GERD. I have hair that's just growing like crazy. My skin is better. My face looks better. It's fuller. I don't have as many wrinkles as I did when I started. I couldn't be in the sun. Now, I can go in the sun. I can go out there and garden. I hated vegetables, let me tell you. Your taste buds change. This changes you from the inside out. My doctors were like, it's incurable. You can't change this. This is something that you're stuck with. And thanks to Dr. G, I'm not stuck with it. Because of this group, I think that I can go back to work. I can play with my grandchildren, that I'm going to be able to do all the things that somebody else had to do for me. Enjoy life. You won't get, if you don't go through her group, this amazing support. It's just amazing. I can't say enough about Dr. Goldner's nutrition plan and her support. Without that, I would have stayed sick. I'm going to miss it. I already miss it. I can do this thanks to you, Dr. Goldner. Thank you for all that you did for us. It was well worth every penny. Your amazing love that shows right through everything you say and do. And so I highly recommend Dr. G's program. Not all the money in the world could get you what you're getting in this, your health. You can't get this kind of help anywhere else for your health. Do it for you. I am amazed, because I am just amazed. Thank you, Dr. G.
Let me show you another one from a recent group. This is Jeannie. She had lupus. She had a positive ANA, dsDNA, and antiphospholipid antibody. Now, she'd been in pain and exhausted for about 5 years before her diagnosis. A lot of you probably can relate to that. A lot of folks are tired and achy and feeling awful, but their labs still look okay. And their doctors go, well, your labs look okay, so you don't have autoimmune yet. Or some even get sent to the psychiatrist. But then after a few years, finally the labs catch up with how sick they are. And finally it shows up. That's why I always caution you guys, don't hang everything you think about yourself on your labs, because sometimes it can take the labs 5 years to show that you have lupus when you've been feeling like hell for 5 years. And sometimes you can feel extraordinary. You're running, you're jumping, you're skipping, you feel so good, and your labs are still not all negative yet. Well, that's okay. Your labs will catch up when they catch up. Listen to your body. You know when you're sick, you know when you're healing, right? So she's someone who'd been sick for so long and nobody was helping her. She had lower leg edema, she had intermittent purpura, she had arthritis, she had fatigue, high stress. She was taking care of all of her grandkids, homeschooling her grandkids, a lot of stress in the family. And she didn't know if she could do this because she also had to cook for her family, and she was still cooking them the stuff they wanted while trying to hypernourish herself, which is not optimal, but that's the situation that she decided she was going to work with. And so I had to do a lot to help her understand that even with all that stress and everything else going on, she could still take care of herself. And that was transformative for her. A lot of women don't realize how important it is to put yourself first. That doesn't mean you're not taking care of your family. That's how you take care of your family. She did amazing, and I'm really proud of Jeannie, and I'm going to let her tell her story.
Hi, I'm Jeannie. I'm 69. Nope, I'm 70. I was diagnosed with this year with late onset lupus. Did research on lupus, and through doing that, I found Dr. Goldner's testimony. I bought her book. I read it. But I set up an Skype consult with her last year, talked to her. She was so supportive. I thought, hey, I'll do this on my own. She gave me all the information I'd need. I bought a Vitamix so I could make better smoothies. But you know what? It was before the holidays. I wanted to eat the foods. There was just busyness. We have a daughter and 5 grandkids living with us, and that's extra going on all the time. And I just didn't do it. I didn't think there was any way I could fit doing something like this in, much less afford it. Then it got to be after Christmas, and my doctor said, you have lupus. So I thought about something she had said to me in our Skype consult when I was telling her all the reasons I couldn't do this. She said, why don't you think you're worth it? And I thought, I am worth doing this for. Finally, I thought that. And I decided I was going to do it. And so I signed up. A week and a half after I started the program, I wasn't tired anymore. I wasn't waking up tired. My mood is better. The emotional healing in this group is almost as good, if not as good, as the nutritional healing. Even though the stress in my life hasn't changed, my ability to cope with it has. And that's a gift. Oh my gosh, my nails have always been thin and papery, and they peeled, and I couldn't keep polish on because they peeled. I noticed in the middle of the 6 weeks that, hey, my nails are strong, and they're slowly growing out and getting rid of all the thin peeled areas. My skin, especially on my arms, it doesn't look old and crepey anymore. I had swelling in my feet that I noticed about a week ago. Hey, I can put on a pair of flats and my feet don't flow out of it. And my ANA, which has been positive for 5 years, is negative. My double-strand DNA, which has been going up, it's coming down. And I also had an antiphospholipid antibody, which makes your blood want to clot, and so you can have strokes. It's normal. It's really normal. And I don't have to worry about a stroke from some stupid antibody that's floating around my body. And that is such a gift. And I just need to tell you that this program truly can reverse your body on a cellular level. It truly can reverse labs. And Dr. G is a gift. I don't know how many times she said, I am here for you. And she helps you step by step with whatever it is you're struggling through. There is not a better gift you can give yourself than doing this 6-week group. I tried it on my own. I was totally committed. I couldn't do it. I needed her support and the support of the other ladies doing the group. So it's the best thing I ever did for myself, and I am worth it.
Thank you, Jeannie. Man, you are worth it. And Jeannie struggled so much, and maybe some of you guys can relate to that. Being a mom, being a grandma, she'd never just taken care of herself before, and she honestly did not know how to do it. And that's one of the things that happens in the group. When you see people say, I'm not the same person anymore, that's what's happening, is that they're learning how to take care of themselves for the first time, really. Because getting your health back is not just about nutrition. It's a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of treating yourself. It's a way of talking to yourself. And that's why you see so many of the people who make these videos say, I'm not the same anymore, because they finally learned what self-love looks like. They finally learned how to take care of themselves, and they're healing in every single way, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And it's a beautiful thing, and I absolutely adore doing it. So again, the 6-week rapid recovery group, it's starting actually in just a few days. The next round is starting in a few days. I don't know if there's any spots left right now, but you'll get everything. You get the daily ability to ask us questions. You're going to get a personalized program where we're going to review what you're doing every single day personally as well. You're going to get the advanced copy of my book, Goodbye Lupus, Hello Delicious, with my healing recipes. You get your My Green Smoothie book. And of course, you get this group as well. And the group is a family. I always hated support groups when I had lupus because they were depressing. Maybe you guys can relate. So depressing to watch other people get sicker and sicker and sicker. I was fighting for my life on chemo, on steroids, hoping to heal, and I'm watching everybody else get sicker and sicker, and it was too depressing. I hated it. But this is a group where everybody's healing, where, you see Jeannie posting, oh my God, my ANA reversed, my antiphospholipid antibody reversed. And you see all these other people posting in like, oh my God, I have saliva again. And it's just like, it's so cool, and you get to keep reminding yourself, this is real, like pinch me, this is real, it's amazing. So it's absolutely incredible. The cost of the group is just under $3,000, it's $29.95 for the entire 6 weeks. So you get 6 weeks, is 42 days of personal help from my husband and myself every single day to help you get your health back. So again, not for those of you who aren't ready to take action, but for those of you who are, I would actually check it out right away because I don't know if there's spots left. And if you don't get this one, you're gonna have to wait 2 months for the next one. Let me put up, I have a link for the group. Let me put it up here. So for those of you who are watching on a computer where you can see it, you can click on the link where it says learn more. And if there's spots left, you can grab your spot. And of course, if there's someone who can't make it and you got pushed over to the next time, I'll call you to get you into this one. If you're not able to see that right now, or you're watching it on YouTube or something, go to goodbyelupus.com and click on group healing. If you're ready to do this, man, I can't wait to take care of you. Like I said, this is my heart. This is why. To me, this is why I got sick. And all I can do is continue to give back the gift I was given. I desperately want to do that. And that's why I take such good care of people. I want to see you like me. I want you to become a health missionary, like my group graduates who go out and tell everyone, healing is real and you can do it. This is my heart's work. And I promise you that if you come and work with me, I will take care of you. My husband and I will be there for you. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to show up. This is actually in a secret Facebook group. So we wanted to do it in a way that everybody would understand how to interact. Most people know how to use Facebook. Now, it's not a closed group. Don't get scared. It's a secret group. So in Facebook, there's an option to make a group that's secret, which means it's invisible to the world. It doesn't exist. Does not exist. So if somebody clicks on your profile, they won't be able to see what group you're in. In fact, the hardest part of the group is helping you get into it because you need a secret invitation to get yourself into it because it's so hard to get into. So it's a secret group. It's not public. Nobody knows you're in there, but it operates just like Facebook. So you're able to come to live meetings. You're able to post in the Q&A to get your questions answered every day. You're able to post your journals every day. It's extremely organized. Some people are shocked by that. It is not one of those free-flowing groups where everything's all over the place. There's a place for everything. There's units that you follow to do the mindset assignments because the emotional mindset work is really important. It's highly organized, and I've been doing this for a while. I'm a pro at it. So it's really, really awesome and effective, and you don't have to learn some new interface to be able to do it. So again, it's $29.95 for the entire 6 weeks. And again, I don't know if there's any spots left. There were only a few left before I started this class, and it's usually gone by now. So it's going to be starting soon. So check it out. If it's something that you're ready to do, there's nothing better. I really, truly feel like this is the best thing I've ever created. And I truly feel like I'm doing what I was born to do. So yes, I'll be this emotional while I take care of you as well. And we'll cry and dance together when you get better too. So let me continue to show you some amazing people. The next person, I really think you're going to be amazed by her recovery and her story. Here's Monica, Dr. Monica. She's a medical doctor, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, and Graves. She was 38 years old when she joined the group, but she'd had autoimmune disease when she was 15, chronic joint pain, insomnia. The pain would literally wake her up. It's just torture. Horrible anxiety, mostly about whether or not she was going to live and be able to be a mom and take care of her kids. I mean, it was just horrible, horrible anxiety. She also had a 5-centimeter mass on her right ovary that her doctors had planned to surgically remove. And she was planning to do that after the group was over. She had a remarkable recovery experience within the group, and I'm going to let Monica tell you the story.
My name is Monica Porto, and I'm a doctor. Right now I'm living in Florida. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with Graves syndrome, Sjogren's-like syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis. I've been living with pain all my life. Had some ovary issues, a large mass on my right ovary. I just decided on that day that I would do this. I started with a group of beautiful women who were feeling the same way as I was. It was amazing. I just couldn't believe it was so fast. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'm healing. I had my anti-nuclear antibodies were negative and my inflammatory markers were very, very low. I did an ultrasound for my ovary and it was 5 centimeters and now there's nothing there. And I'm so thankful for everything that's happened and for everything that Dr. Goldner has taught me, and for a very good group of friends that have been so supportive. Thank you, Dr. Goldner, for everything. This is the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Amazing, right? I mean, ANA negative for the first time in her entire life of having autoimmune disease. And the mass disappeared. And that's something I see a lot. Hormonal issues seem to even out on this program. I've seen people recover from endometriosis, ovarian cysts. It's just amazing how the hormonal system just goes back to normal. So whatever this mass was, it's gone now. So I'm really happy for her and her journey. Let's keep going. Here's Mariana. Mariana had CNS lupus. So that's lupus in the central nervous system. Very, very dangerous. She'd also had autoimmune disease since she was a child. From 14 years old, she was diagnosed with lupus. She actually called me from the ICU last August. She was in the ICU and she was having seizures every single day because the lupus was in her brain, and she was terrified. And I told her, come out of the ICU and just come into the next group. The next group was starting. Let's not waste any time. Let me take care of you. Her family, by the way, didn't want her to do that. Her family said, take some time, relax, recover. Don't go into this crazy nutrition plan. She was upset because she had a life. She had a boyfriend. She was traveling. She was working. And she had to give all that up to move back home with her parents. And it broke her heart. And she didn't want to waste any time. So she got home and went immediately into the protocol from the ICU. When she came into the protocol, her dsDNA, back then in August of 2017, was 3,356. That was a record for the hospital. That's actually a record for my program. You know, I'd actually been holding the record because my dsDNA had been in the 2000s when I was sick, and most people don't have it up that high when I see them. She broke my record, 3,356. After starting the group, by the end of August, her dsDNA was 136. This is not changing any medications. This is hypernourishment. By September 21st, it was 106. And the last time I checked in with her in September, it was down to 84, and it's continued to drop since then. And she actually decided to go backpacking abroad. Now, she was terrified to leave her mom's house because of all the seizures, but the seizures stopped while she was in the group. Seizures stopped. She didn't have them every day anymore. They started to spread out farther and farther apart, and she started to realize finally she was on the path to getting her health back and her life back. She has an amazing, amazing thing to share with you, and I'm going to let her share it.
My name is Mariana Teresa Sacedo. I was diagnosed with lupus at the age of 14, coming up on 10 years I've had it now. But I've always had autoimmune problems, being anemic to alopecia at the age of 10, shingles at the age of 12, 14 lupus, 18 RSD, which is nerve damage in your foot, fatigue to sun sensitivity, stomach issues, arthritis pain, high blood pressure, being hospitalized, learning that you're having seizures because lupus is attacking your brain. I got sent back home, and I was either going to come home and cry and be all sad at the fact that I got sick again, or I was going to do something about it, like really do something. So I found Dr. Goldner. I started her 6-week program. The first thing to leave to heal was my pain. I woke up and I was pain-free. My hands didn't ache. I didn't have trigger fingers. I wasn't achy. And I mean, I've always been achy. Let me tell you that. I've always had some type of swollenness, arthritis pain. And within the next 3 weeks, my energy was fully back. I'm on this high right now where I feel incredible. I really do. All 23 years of my life, I have never been this healthy. I have always been sick. And until this program, I've always thought I wasn't ever really good at anything. I wasn't, what I was good at was being sick. I was good at always getting sick. But until this program, I realized I'm amazing. Like, everything I've gone through my whole life, like, it's incredible. I am a superwoman. I never knew that until this program, till I pushed myself. My disease will never take over my life. I could never thank Dr. Goldner. I can't thank her enough, other than doing this video and telling everybody that this does work, because it's real.
Amazing, right? Let's keep going. There's more. Here's Joyce. Joyce was in a recent group. She's had Sjogren's since 2006, hypertension, myopathy, hypothyroidism, GERD, peripheral nervous system disorder, which caused imbalance. It was very difficult for her to get around. Raynaud's disease and very limited mobility. When she joined the group, she either used a cane or a scooter to get around, and her doctor told her she was going to end up full-time in a wheelchair. There was no getting back the mobility that she lost. It was only going to get worse. She didn't want to believe that, and she joined my group, and I'm going to let her tell you exactly what happened after that.
My name is Joyce Tompkins, and I was diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome approximately 12 years ago. Raynaud's, mixed connective tissue disease, hypothyroidism, myopathy. The Sjogren's has attacked the nerves in my limbs, making it difficult for me to get around. I've eventually had to depend upon a cane to get around. My doctors told me that I would eventually probably end up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I have had no energy to be able to go to church, to go watch our grandson play baseball. Anything would wipe me out. 1 or 2 naps a day. The brain fog has made me have to make a list to be able to remember things. Since I've started this 6-week rapid healing group, my energy level has just practically gone through the roof. Within just a few days of following the protocol, I no longer needed to have a nap every day. I have been able to go watch our grandson play baseball. I no longer have to make a list. It's unbelievable. I feel like I'm alive in my body. The greatest thing is I have saliva in my mouth now. No longer do I have dry mouth. That happened within just a couple of weeks. I just recently had a dental cleaning, and my dental hygienist was thrilled to see saliva in my mouth again and notice a dramatic improvement in my gums. I can get around pretty well without having to use the cane. I received so much encouragement and support from others within the group. It's one of the best things that I ever did for myself. I just can't thank Dr. Goldner enough for having the compassion and the drive to help those of us that are sick. I just will be totally indebted to her for the rest of my life. My life will never be the same.
Isn't Joyce amazing? And you know what's really cool is she just texted me another video of herself walking and feeling great. She says she continues to get better and better. And that's one of the benefits of this is when you continue to nourish yourself, you continue to improve. And I'll tell you something else. Joyce is one of those people that she didn't have the money up front to do this, but she was determined. And her husband wasn't supportive. He didn't want her doing it. He didn't want her spending the money. He didn't believe in the group or healing or anything like that. So she was saving up, and she would send me a check every time she had money to start saving up until she could get into a group. And then for the final payment, she got a friend to help her. So she was just like, her heart said, this is right for me. This is what I need to do. And I'm going to find a way. And she did it. And now look at her go. I mean, she's walking. She feels great. She's not worried about a wheelchair anymore. She's got saliva for the first time in over 20 years. Her life is back. But she not only invested in it, she did it. She did everything I said, and she is thriving, and I absolutely adore her. So again, if you are someone who wants to join the group, I can't wait to take care of you. Just click learn more on the side of your screen or go to goodbyelupus.com and click on group healing, and you'll be able to learn more about the group and join, okay? We got one more incredible case, and then we're gonna go to the live Q&A, and I'm gonna answer all your questions. It's probably gonna take me like 3 hours, but I'm gonna answer all your questions as well, okay? Now, this last one is one that, man, she also steals my heart. Every one of you do. My heart just gets bigger and bigger. I think my heart now fills my entire torso because it's full of all of you guys. But another incredible story of recovering that I just love to share. So if you don't have your tissue box out yet, you probably want it because this one, it'll send you over the edge, all right? So let's go ahead and meet the last case. This is Becky. Now, Becky came to me with Sjogren's, blind. She was almost blind because the Sjogren's had dried out her eyes so much it was painful to have any kind of light hit her eyes. You can see from the picture that she had to cover her windows in foil and have the blinds drawn, and she still had sunglasses on. She was severely underweight, very isolated because she couldn't go outside in the light. She wasn't able to work anymore, and she had a very high-powered, important job. She also couldn't speak without pain because of how inflamed her lungs were. And that was one of the biggest heartbreaks for her. Was she was a beautiful singer and loved to sing with her church choir, and she hadn't been able to sing for a very long time because of the pain. She had macular migraines. She told me that Christmas Day 2016, she woke up and just couldn't take light anymore, and it had been continuous since then. May 2017, after 6 weeks, she had no more migraines, and for the first time since Christmas of 2016, she was able to put the lights on in her house again. And she made this video for you guys right after the 6-week group ended, and she was able to put the lights on, and it was a surprise for me what she did. And if you guys don't have your tissues handy, this is the one where you're gonna ugly cry. I still can't help it and do it myself every time. I'm gonna let you see Becky's story, and then we're gonna jump into the Q&A.
Hi everybody, my name is Becky and I'm super excited to be here and to share a short testimony about the last 6 weeks of my life that has to do with Dr. Brooke Goldner's Hyper Nourishing Healing Program. I am a changed person, and I hope that I can share with those of you who are possibly considering doing this, those of you who are struggling and suffering with disease. I have Sjogren's and Lyme's. I was diagnosed with those two, and I was terrified. And I was looking for something else other than conventional doctors and pills and side effects and all that craziness. Searched furiously, and I found a testimony of a gentleman who was his Sjogren's was reversed by Dr. G. And I didn't know whether to believe it was true or not, but I went for it. And I'll tell you, 6 weeks later, my life has changed. I'm going to dedicate a song. I haven't sung in a long time. My lungs were affected, and this is the first time that I've really been able to sing. So I'm going to dedicate this to Dr. G and everybody that I worked with. I consider them my second family. It's called Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. And you know, I was blind. I was sitting in a dark house for 3 months without light. When I turned a light on, just barely, I had to put on sunglasses because of the photosensitivity from this from these diseases. And now I have the lights on bright, and I feel so good. I feel so good, and I hope that whoever is watching and is hesitant about this, who doesn't quite think it might be right, or doesn't, I remember those feelings of thinking, maybe this is just all a, fake or a fraud. It's not. I'm living proof. And when you put the right things into your body, when you put healing foods into your body, it will change and it will heal. And so I'm hoping that my life here that I've shared with you, just this past 6 weeks that I've shared of my life will touch someone out there, and you'll decide to do this. And there is so much hope, and I'm so excited that I feel good. And I want everybody to be able to experience what I've experienced. So I thank you for letting me share, and God bless everybody.
Thank you, Becky. She's an amazing woman, and she continues to do well, and she continues to take care of herself in a way she never knew was possible. And I just hope that her experience and the experience of all the other people I introduced you to today, I hope they're changing your life right now. I hope they're changing your belief in what's possible. Because healing is natural and it's normal, but you have to take really huge changes into consideration to get that health back. These diseases I'm showing you, these are extreme illnesses. It takes an extreme commitment and an extreme diet to get your health back from them, but nothing's more worth it. I can tell you now, I'm 13 years lupus free. I've been able to have 2 children I was told I could never have. I'm in my 40s and I'm on the cover of Fit Over 40 when I was told by my doctors I would probably be handicapped by my 40s because I'd had lupus since I was a teenager and I'd been so sick for so long. There's nothing now that I can imagine not being able to do. There's no limitations on my life. There's no fear that there's illness around the corner. And all that matters to me is making sure that you know that you have the potential to get your life back as well. You can be so much healthier and stronger, and I want you to have hope, because that's the most important thing. You gotta believe, you gotta have hope, and that's what's gonna give you the motivation to take action. So whether that action is adding what you're missing and starting to add your smoothies into your life, where that action is to cut the bad stuff out of your health, out of your life, get rid of the meat, get rid of the dairy, get rid of the processed foods and the oils, or whether taking that action is saying, I'm done being sick and you're joining my next group that's about to start. Whatever that action is, I want you to take the action. I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to take care of yourself because I care about you, and that's why I'm here. Hey guys, I hope you loved that class. I hope you're learning so much. Now, if you have any questions for me, I want to answer them because I want to make sure you know what to do to get your health back. So make sure you click the link that you see to sign up for the live Q&A that I'm going to be holding soon. Also, for those of you guys who have been sending me messages asking me about the next 6-week rapid recovery group, if you're looking for my support to get your health back, make sure you go to goodbyelupus.com, click on Work with Dr. G, and you'll see how to enter the 6-week rapid recovery group so I can take care of you every day for 6 weeks. If other than that though, make sure you come to that live Q&A. So make sure you click to register for that Q&A so I can answer all of your questions and make sure you get the information you need to get the health you want.